Good evening. I would like to call this meeting of March 14, 2024 to order. Tonight, the Jeffco Public School Board of Education is meeting virtually as schools are closed today due to the snowstorm. We're fortunate that this is the first time that this current board has held a regular meeting online. Being that this is the first for me and the board, I ask for your patience and grace. We're going to attempt to proceed with business as usual. However, should we lose our live streaming capabilities or if any board member experiences technical difficulties that we are unable to resolve, we will adjourn and reschedule this meeting. Tonight's meeting may also go at a slower pace as I pay attention to hand-raised signals from my fellow colleagues. Additionally, any board member may unmute themselves at any time and request a break. If and when this happens, the live stream will be paused. I want to note that the executive session we had noticed for tonight has been moved to Wednesday, March 27 at 4:30 p.m. at the Ed Center. We are also moving the honors and recognitions originally scheduled for this meeting to our April 11 meeting. As we start tonight, I would like to thank Drew Sheely, our wonderful audiovisual engineer, for his support. There are maybe moments of silence or times when you hear one of us or a presenter speaking to someone and do not hear their comments in response. In those moments, most likely we are speaking with Mr. Sheely. I'd also like to thank our Spanish interpreters. Roll call, please, Ms. Zavada.
Miss Applegate? Miss Kenworthy?
Here.
Miss Parker?
Here.
Miss Reed?
Here.
Dr. Varda?
Here.
Is there a motion regarding tonight's meeting agenda?
I move to approve today's agenda as presented in board docs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any objection? It has been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented in board docs. Roll call, please, Ms. Zavada.
Miss Applegate?
Yes.
Miss Kenworthy?
Yes.
Miss Parker?
Yes.
Miss Reed?
Yes.
Dr. Varda?
Yes.
The agenda is approved. Now we get to the proclamations part of the meeting, and items 2.01 through 2.04 are presented in the board docs as proposed proclamations for the month of March. These are National Women's History Month, National School Social Worker Week, National School Breakfast Week, National Read Across America Day, which was March 2nd. I encourage all you listeners to take time to read through these proclamations. And do I have a motion regarding the approval of these proclamations?
Yes. I move to approve items 2.01 through 2.04 on the action proclamation section as published in board docs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please, Ms. Zavada.
Miss Applegate?
Yes.
Miss Kenworthy?
Yes.
Miss Parker?
Yes.
Miss Reed?
Yes.
Dr. Varda?
Yes.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the proclamations as presented in board docs. We are now in the public comment portion of the meeting. Ms. Zavada, do we have commenters in the waiting room?
Yes, President Parker, we do have people in the waiting room. I'd like to go ahead and bring in our first guest, and it's going to be Miss Smile. So if you'll hold on, I'll go ahead. If you're ready, please let me know and I'll send her through.
Okay, I will just put in some guidelines that we're going to follow because this is our first virtual meeting with public comment. I want to share with the public that our executive assistant, Ms. Zavada, reached out to everyone who signed up for public comment tonight to let them know that our meeting would be virtual. They were offered the opportunity to provide their comments virtually tonight or to receive a reserved spot on the public comment list at our April 11th meeting. I will now repeat the instructions that people giving public comment received from Ms. Zavada yesterday evening to ensure the best results in this virtual setting. Time limits will be enforced tonight, 3 minutes for individual and 10 minutes for group. And once the timer is expired, I will ask you to conclude your comments. Groups are encouraged to select 1 to 2 speakers to ensure that all comments are made within the time limit, the 10-minute time limit. And for the best audio, please consider using headphones or a headset and make sure your audio on your computer is unmuted. If you have the board meeting open in a browser, please close it now. If you do not close the live stream, you will hear yourself about 10 seconds after you begin your comments. If you have technical difficulties that prevent you or your group from successfully commenting, we will automatically place you on the April 11th public comment list. We also encourage you to email the board with your full comments in the event that you are unable to share them in their entirety tonight. Please know that we listen with respect and ask those who address the board to do the same. And after the expired timer, I will let you know that your time has expired, and I'll ask you to please wrap up your comments. Okay, Ms. Zavada, we're ready for the first public comment.
Excellent. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and invite in Dawn Fritz. She's going to be coming in as our other person has left the waiting room. Dawn Fritz is being admitted for 3 minutes. Dawn, are you here with us?
Just give me 1 second. I thought I heard somebody else's name before me.
It's a good thing we're ahead of schedule as we work out the technical issues with the virtual meeting.
Thank you, and I apologize while trying to figure out the live stream and muting and all that was fun. So, hi, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Dawn Fritz, and I have been a resident of Jefferson County for over 20 years, and I've had a child in Jeffco Public Schools for over 12. First, I want to thank you for serving our community, knowing that you are up there and valuing the education and inclusion of all of our students helps me rest easy and focus my advocacy efforts on other venues like the real legislature. I'm confident that the policy that protects some of our most marginalized students won't be rescinded on your watch. Our transgender students deserve to be safe and included in our schools, so thank you. Which brings me to my main point for tonight. In addition to being a community member and parent, I'm Colorado PTA's Director of Legislative Engagement. PTA is our nation's oldest and largest child advocacy association. I think it's important to share that Colorado PTA supports all 3 bills on the consent agenda tonight. We testified in support of 1223 and 1039. I personally support all 3 bills, and I'd like to share the testimony I presented to the House Education Committee last month in support of HB 24-1039. Colorado PTA supports House Bill 1039. It's not lost on me that this bill has been brought forward by our youth. PTA supports providing our students with meaningful ways to directly participate in decision-making processes. Thank you to the Colorado Youth Advisory Council and to the committee and bill sponsors for all of your work on this bill. All children and youth should be able to attend school in safe and inclusive environments free from discrimination. And history has shown that civil rights laws are effective in contributing to such environments. Thus, PTA supports the passage of legislation, including the bill before us, that recognize LGBTQ plus students' rights and creates safe, inclusive, supportive, affirming, and accepting environments in our schools. PTA also supports legislation that promotes the health and safety of our children and youth. This includes protecting students from harassment and bullying, as well as the designation of resources and policies that prevent suicide and self-harm. It has been established that the acceptance of transgender and non-binary youth significantly lowers the odds of attempting suicide. This bill would help create an inclusive environment of acceptance, lowering that risk. For the record, PTA explicitly seeks and supports legislation that specifically recognizes LGBTQ plus as a protected group and addresses discrimination based upon sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. You should check out National PTA's resolution on the protection and support for LGBTQ plus youth or individuals. Again, PTA supports House Bill 241039, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to advocate for the wellness and safety of our children and youth. So I just want to, assuming you're going to vote in the affirmative on the consent agenda, I just want to thank you for joining PTA and advocating for this important bill. And I hope to see a representative from Jeffco Public Schools testifying with me in the Senate Education Committee on the 25th. So thank you for this opportunity again.
Thank you. Who's next?
Okay, we do have Miss Lauren Smiles is going to be joining us next. She has 3 minutes. I'm inviting her in the room now. Thank you for this opportunity again.
Thank you. Who's next?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I see that now. I just did that. Okay. Hi, my name is Lauren Smiles, and I'm a parent with a transgender youth in my family. I just came here to say that I want to support the code JBR to remain as is. I think that it's imperative that we protect the privacy of our transgender and gender diverse students in Jeffco Public Schools and elsewhere, because they have a right to, have a normal life, and they have enough stress in their life. So I just think it's really important that we protect that code and keep it as is.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, Ms. Zavada.
Okay, next we are going to go ahead and have another 3 minutes presenter, and it's going to be Miss Jennifer Toohill. Jennifer, I'm entering you into the room.
Can you please stay here? I just want you to.
Oh, it's started.
Oh. Okay, what do I do? Oops.
I think I muted her, Drew, until she's ready, and then she can unmute herself. And
Ready?
here she comes.
Okay, now you're unmuted. Sorry,
Okay.
I'll help him. Do you want to turn on your camera? I'm not
Yes.
sure if it's gonna work.
I have my, hello? Oh, hello. I am so sorry. My daughter is helping me figure this out. Hello, my name, thank you first of all for letting me speak today. My name is Jennifer Toohill. I have 2 daughters that go to Jefferson County, and we are in Golden. And I was just, let me show my daughter. I was just shocked to learn that Jeffco had no climate action program. My daughter said that she's been learning about climate change since she was in 5th grade and had anxiety and has had anxiety about it since then, because they're always talking about challenges of climate change, but not seeing any solutions. I think we need a climate action program in our schools to show our students a more sustainable future is possible. These are, of course, things that she has told me about. I own a small restaurant in Golden, and we have tried to do our own things in our own to help climate change by doing compostable products and also just doing simple things as compost our food. This is a small scale, and we're trying to make our difference. And I just would like to see Jeffco also try to make a difference as well, and show our young kids that we care. And first step is just doing sustainable products, showing also just composting. These are just simple little steps that we can do, and do more of it as a big scale, as an administration, to reach all the schools, because this is just a small little step that we can do. And thank you again for letting me speak today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Zavada.
Okay, next, we do have another 3-minute. We have Miss Jenny Guzman. Jenny, I'm going to be admitting you into the meeting. She should be coming in right now. All right, Jenny.
Do you see me? Or do you see can you hear me? Oh, well, is that okay that you can't see me? Yeah, I hate to hold people up. I'll just go ahead. Okay, so we're ready? Okay. Yeah, can you hear me? Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry? Oh, no. Oh, shoot. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Technology. Okay, thank you for hearing me today. As you already said, my name is Jenny Guzman. I am mom to 5 Jeffco kids. My family lives in Green Mountain in the Lakewood area. I am here in consideration of the recent hire of an art teacher at our elementary school. Parents, community members, staff continue to be very concerned. You're all aware of the emails, I think, that have been sent back and forth throughout leadership regarding the potential dangers this person poses in her relationships with her students. She has extensive and current online public persona full of highly disturbing images, interviews, documentaries, articles, connections to people who promote pornography and drug use across multiple websites. And suffice it to say, her social media presence far exceeds the limited number of works you guys have been told only exist inside of her master's thesis from 10 years ago. It is in clear violation of Jeffco's, social media policy. It also appears, and why I'm talking right now, that parents were intentionally kept in the dark about gender-based conversations this art teacher was having with her young students as young as 5 years old, after a community email was sent to parents explicitly omitting her unique salutation and her pronoun designation at the beginning of the semester. Furthermore, when compared to another candidate who was fully licensed, had years of relevant teaching experience, additional certifications, admirable volunteer hours to highlight, this person's resume was sorely lacking in any of those categories. And then finally, parents who are aware of this teacher's public persona, and have opted their children out of art, continue to struggle with arbitrary rules imposed on them at the school. It's beyond unfortunate that one person, namely the person in charge, can change the culture of a place so drastically on her whim, undermining the parent-teacher partnerships that Jeffco touts as one of their best strengths. I'm here to ask that you consider the fact that this newly hired teacher is a person who has intentionally sought out a position within close proximity to young children, who has been placed in a position of trust, authority, and influence over these children, and who will, in the course of a week, see every single child in the building as the art teacher for the entire school. At this point, we are here because we want to trust you with our kids. We want to believe that you are instructing your administration to make merit-based hiring decisions that are in the best educational interest of our kids. We want to feel confident in leaving our kids in the care of Jeffco schools for the entirety of their time in the district, all the way up to graduation day. So please reconsider taking further action in this matter. Our kids would love to return to art class, and as parents, we would love to know they are safe in your hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Zavada.
Next, we do have another 3-minute speaker. His name is Damian Hadassah. Damian, I'm going to be letting you into the room, and I hope I said your last name correctly. Please forgive me if I did not. All right, here he comes.
I think that's right. Thank you so much. My name is Hadassah Damian. I'm a homeowner in Wheat Ridge. And first, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak and for your work on the school board. For me, as a member of the LGBTQ community, I commend Jeffco's school board for the wonderful policy, JBR, that is in place. It is a North Star for what I hope all districts could adopt. I could only have wished for a policy like this when I was in school. I advocate to keep and not change JBR. I also ask you to please vote yes to endorse the 2 House bills 24-1039 and 24-1323. Using a non-legal name is important for transgender and gender nonconforming young people. It also has historical significance and is culturally important for LGBTQ+ people and is a common practice in our community. As well, self-expression in attire is an important way that members of our community signal community membership, and in general, enabling attire at graduation for students across religion and ethnic experiences is just a way for students to celebrate the wonderful achievement of graduating. School being a place that is inclusive and welcoming for all students, including LGBTQ+ students and specifically transgender students, is important to me, my family, and my larger LGBTQ+ community, both here in Wheat Ridge and in Jeffco and Denver Metro at large. Inclusion for transgender and gender nonconforming students is important on its own, and it also ensures that all the students in Jeffco's school district get exposure to the many diverse types of people that they will encounter also after school, and prepares them to leave school as well. So thank you for helping us create the school experiences our diverse young people deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Zavada, next.
Okay, next we do have Miss Claire Numar. Claire, I'm going to be inviting you in to our meeting tonight. Here she comes. I apologize. This is a 3-minute.
Hi, sorry, are you talking to me? I think I just got the audio to work. Sorry about that. Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Claire Naumer, and I'm a student at Evergreen High School. Thank you for taking my testimony tonight. I want to start off by thanking you for all your work on sustainability thus far. It means the world that we are being heard and that steps are being taken for the future. I'm on the board for the Evergreen Sustainability Alliance, and we've had great success composting at lunches in schools. As I've learned more about sustainability and volunteered at events, I have realized that people are grateful for the actions that we're taking, but also that they don't know what to do and how to help. According to a global survey, 75% of youth are frightened about the future because of climate change. As one of these students, I feel it is vital that we feel there's something we can do about it. There's always going to be negativity about the future, but that's not going to do anything to solve the problem. Every time I come home from volunteering, I feel energized. I'm not changing the world, but I feel like something that I did mattered. Maybe I just saved a couple of pounds of food to compost, refilled some plastic shampoo bottles, or even just educated one person about what they can do to help. But it feels like time well spent. I'm turning my worries into something proactive, and that makes all the difference. My generation will be a major part of the sustainable solutions. If ways to be sustainable are modeled in our schools every day, we can go into the future armed with knowledge of ways to sustain our planet and create new innovations to help in the future. There are so many small beneficial acts that students can take in their own lives. It all starts from learning there's a problem and being educated about the solutions available now. We're asking you to create a sustainability task force in our district with community members, energy experts, district staff, and students to lead our district into a sustainable future. As a student, I feel we need to be involved in the steps toward a solution so that when it's our time to lead, we have a head start. We're going to need the passion of community members, the knowledge of experts, the support of district staff, and the creativity of students. We're also asking that sustainability measures are taken into a policy to mandate the administration implement them. A top-down policy would ensure that everyone is on the same page and these solutions can continue going into the future. As American culture anthropologist Margaret Mead said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Savada.
Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and attempt to bring in a 10-minute group that is going to start with Ms. Whitney Newman. I'm also going to invite in Ms. Bev Armour, Krista Bollinger. Let me start with Whitney. In Whitney, I am attempting to go ahead and I don't see Adriana Garcia on here. Do you know if she's going to be joining us tonight? Okay, so here comes also Beth Armour, Krista Bollinger. Let me start with Whitney. In Whitney, I am attempting to go ahead and I don't see Adriana Garcia on here. Do you know if she's going to be joining us tonight? Yeah. I don't see her in the waiting room. Do you know if she's joining us tonight or she's unable to, or she's having technical difficulties? Okay, I'll go ahead and make a notation that she did not join the group, but you still have your 10 minutes as a group.
Please go ahead whenever you're ready. Krista, I can see you. Are you waiting for someone else to start?
Well, I was waiting for Whitney, but I'll go ahead and my son's going to help me read because reading is a challenge. So he's going to read the beginning for you. We'll just cover Whitney's.
Okay.
This is Whitney's. Thank you, members of the board and Superintendent Tracy Thorland, for listening to this group of educators today. Our purpose today is to provide you with a few stories about how the current leave structure affects educators in different ways. We hope to create a structure that retains educators and allows educators to take leave when they need and not have to worry about being able to start a family, take care of family members, and take care of themselves without pay. Leave and benefits affect all educators in the district.
My name is Krista Bollinger. I have been a special education teacher in Jeffco for 26 years. I am a mother of 2 students, the wife of a Jeffco graduate, a Jeffco resident, a 2-time breast cancer survivor in 2022 or 2020 and 2023, and a current breast cancer warrior. This is my son Isaac, who is a sophomore at Golden High School. In October, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, stage 4 breast cancer. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Within 3 weeks, I was scheduled to have brain surgery. I immediately contacted the leave office to obtain information on short-term leave that I would be required to take. After a week, when I had not received a response, I reached out again for clarification on the next steps that I needed to take. Finally, I received an email form to complete and return to the leave's office. When I reached out with questions and I received another form and no answers. I bulleted the questions, no answers. By the day before my surgery, I had not received any assistance from HR, only forms. I was uncertain if these were the right choices for my family, and I still had no answers, or even verified that I'd correctly applied for leave. After my surgery, I was unable to read, write, and my vision was significantly impacted. I needed more time than the 3 weeks I had anticipated for the aphasia treatment. Along with my needed brain healing, I reached out to Standard to verify that everything was set for my short-term leave, and they'd received no information about my claim. What do you do when you're cognitively impaired on leave, and nobody from HR is giving you the help you've asked for when your short-term disability doesn't exist? I sought help for 3 weeks before my surgery, and HR wouldn't answer my questions, and nothing was in place a week after surgery. I contacted the leave's office to verify what had gone wrong. They said that I was at fault because I should have known what I was signing. After weeks of asking for help, brain surgery, and the resulting cognitive struggles, I had no one from HR was willing to help me. I took my own steps with Standard to get my own short-term disability in place. Since my cancer had metastasized, tomorrow I will have surgery to place a port in between, and I begin 12 to 24 weeks of chemo to kill the tumors. I will be able to work, and I want to keep working, but I have a lot of decisions to make. Some of these are because HR wouldn't help me the first time. I have no sick days left, and my retirement is in jeopardy. And I owe taxes on the short-term disability that I did receive because the leave's office only sent paperwork and refused help. I've been a special ed teacher in Jeffco for 26 years, and I feel like no one in the district office helped me or my family when we needed them. I need this board and Superintendent Dorland to know what Jeffco's leave policies are too complicated for educators to navigate without help, and that help was either defensive or unresponsive. We can't expect employees needing to contact the school board in order for our leaves department to respond and help employees. All I'm asking is that you know that Jeffco educators and their children who attend our schools need leave policies that are accessible to them. Please help ensure that nobody else has to experience what I'm going through.
Can everyone hear me? Couldn't hear earlier. So thank you, board members and superintendent, for listening to us today. Our purpose is to provide you just with a few stories of current leave structures and how they affect our educators. As you can see with Krista, we're hoping to create a structure that allows for educators to take leave when needed and not have to worry about being able to start a family, take care of family members, or take care of themselves without pay, because leaves affect all of us in the district. And so next up is Sean to tell a story.
Great, thank you. And I'd like to start by thanking you all for your willingness to listen to us and for your steps to support educators in the past year that have been really helpful. I'd also like to thank Krista and Isaac for their bravery and openness in sharing. I've taught high school for 11 years and I've worked in the district for 6 years. I'm also a Colorado native, Jeffco resident, and father of 2 young boys, a 2.5-year-old and one that's 7 weeks old. I also have Crohn's disease, and which requires me to miss 1 day every 6 weeks for medicine infusions, and also means I can get sick more often than most. I'm very passionate about teaching and coaching. I coach rock climbing and teach at Golden High School, and passionate about my students, and I would love to keep doing the best I can for my students like Isaac, and I worry that I won't be able to do that and take care of my own family. For example, when my first son was born, I had to return to work just 3 days after spending 4 exhausting days in the hospital while sending lesson plans the whole time. The only paternity leave support I was offered was 2 weeks if I had that many sick days, which I didn't have quite that many. And it took my wife about 7 weeks to be able to stand and walk around our house. So without the incredible support from our parents, we wouldn't have been able to get by. I excitedly supported the Colorado Family Act when Coloradans voted on that and worked hard to figure out how we could benefit from that when I learned my wife was pregnant again. But I was extremely disappointed to learn that the district had opted out of the law. I was able to take about a month off of partial pay leave by piecing together a little bit of my own opting into family and my PTO. And thankfully my wife's recovery last month was smoother this time. However, I still had to spend multiple hours every single day sending out lesson plans, emailing, calling, or reading about district leaves and benefits to try to understand how to work that and to get through that. I chose to come back at 4 weeks instead of what you can do of 12 weeks through the family because of the burden of essentially teaching remotely without pay, even though my wife and boys would have greatly benefited from me taking a little more time off. We shouldn't have to go on leave to have the time to figure out how leaves and benefits work. We also shouldn't have to leave our own families when in need so that we can support other families in our district. It's heartbreaking to me that I may have to choose between being a good teacher or being a good father because I don't know how I can continue to do both well. It's incredible that I pay over $6,000 a year for this standard of benefits, and if I want to add my family, that'll go up to roughly $20,000 a year with no improvement in leaves or healthcare. I know there are better solutions out there, either by opting in and working with the State Family Act and working with them. They were much better to call and work with, or even by working with the standard insurance company that Jeffco already works with, which I've seen their work firsthand through my wife's company. Other companies and our state are waking up to the importance of parents being there for their families in the first couple months of life. And I hope our district can support future Jeffco students by providing better support to current Jeffco parents and educators. Thank you.
Okay, here we go.
Sorry about that. Is that all for your group? Have you finished your comments?
Do we have? You're muted.
We had one more story, but it looks like we ran out of time.
Okay.
So
Well,
just thank you for your time and listening to us tonight. These are two pretty powerful stories that we just wanted to share of how leaves affects us.
okay. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Ms. Zavada, next.
Okay, our next group is again going to be a 10-minute group. I'm going to be inviting in Mr. Andrew Gittner and then inviting in his other team members. So that is going to be Mr. Jerry Blinko, who I'm inviting right now, Miss Katie Cahill, who's going to be coming in the room right now, and Mr. Manuel Martinez, who's going to be coming in right now. And again.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I was just looking around wildly to do. Everybody, we're just going to introduce ourselves, then we'll kick it off. I'm Andrew Gittner. I teach 10th and 11th grade English at Golden High School.
I'm Katie Cahill. I teach 6th grade language arts at Summit Ridge Middle School.
I'm Jeremy Blinko. I teach science at Golden High School.
Oh, sorry, that's Tony. Manuel Martinez. He teaches special ed at Golden High School. Audio. Thank you. First of all, good evening, members of the Jeffco Board of Ed, Superintendent Dorland, fellow educators, and community members watching. Happy spring break. Thank you. We're really excited to speak on behalf of the JCEA, the Jefferson County Education Association, the voice of more than 5,000 educators in Jeffco Public Schools. We're really proud to represent and support the dedicated professionals who work tirelessly to provide a world-class education for our students. We also want to share our gratitude for some recent opportunities to help the Jeffco community. JCEA is really proud to be a part of Jeffco and to contribute to its well-being and prosperity. One of the ways we do that is by helping today's Jeffco students become tomorrow's Jeffco educators. So every year we award various scholarships to students and educators who demonstrate outstanding leadership, innovation, and impact in their schools and classrooms. Fun fact, it's more generous than the National Merit Scholarship. We've awarded scholarships to 3 graduating seniors pursuing careers in education. So just wanted to share the names of the winners. This year's Excellence Fund winners are Morgan Thorne from Ralston Valley, Lillian Bailey from Wheat Ridge. We also offer scholarships to an aspiring teachers of color. That's the Shamita West Scholarship. And this year's winner is Mia Zamora from Pomona High School. We believe supporting our learners. We believe supporting our learners today supports future Jeffco teachers and future Jeffco students. And we're really grateful to be a part of that. Collectively, every year we invest thousands of dollars to build the next generation of Jeffco teachers. Just fun, quick announcement to support the Excellence Fund. We are hosting an online auction soon in partnership with Jeffco PTA, phenomenal organization. This is a great opportunity to bid on some really cool items and experiences while also supporting Jeffco's students' continued education. So you can subscribe to Jeffco PTA's newsletter on their website, so you'll get notifications about that. And other opportunities to support Jeffco students. We also want to share some information about Grub Club, which is a program that provides assistance to Jeffco families in need in partnership with the Jeffco Action Center. Grub Club collects and distributes non-perishable food items and grocery gift cards to families struggling with food insecurity. And since the start of the school year, we've collected and donated 28,794 food and hygiene items and $4,600 in monetary donations. So thanks to the generosity of JCA members, Jeffco Public Schools officials, and community members, we estimate this will help over 1,000 Jeffco families with children, as well as help the Jeffco Action Center continue to serve our community. And we want to extend a special thank you to Director Reed, Superintendent Dorland, and the Pioneers Group in our community for their assistance with the program. We're really grateful for the opportunity to serve our students and our community in this way. We believe that when our families are healthy and secure, our students can learn and thrive. When our teachers can be part of that community, that bond is strengthened even more, and our students gain the benefit of that.
As fewer teachers enter the profession, it's more important than ever that we help Jeffco educators stay in the district. The JCEA Early Career Educator Action Team is a group of passionate and dedicated teachers who provide mentoring, training, and networking opportunities for educators as they begin their careers. We've done some amazing work this year to welcome and support new educators, such as organizing and facilitating events at new teacher induction for new hires, which included community building and sharing the knowledge we've gained throughout our experience in Jeffco. We're looking forward to our involvement with next year's new teacher induction as well. Also, we've supported new educators at new teacher induction with training and on-site assistance with technology onboarding. We want to thank IT and the ed tech team for helping educators realize the vision of a 21st century education for our students. We've also hosted community building events to foster community and camaraderie throughout Jeffco. Organizing a mentorship program for new teachers to the district is one of our ambitious goals as well. Some schools lack a formal mentorship program for new educators, and this is an essential support new teachers need. Most teachers leave education before their 5th year. With effective support and mentorship, educators can stay in the classroom to master their craft, which translates to an empowering student experience. The JCEA Early Career Educator Action Team is a vital part of our union, and we're passionate about empowering new educators in Jeffco so that they want to stay in Jeffco. According to CDE, Jeffco's teacher turnover rate is higher than the national average. We want to change that, and we're excited about working together with the district to make Jeffco a place where educators stay beyond their formative years as educators. In addition to the work of the Early Career Educator Action Team, I'd also like to acknowledge the work of the JCA Professional Practices Action Team. This team is composed of experienced and knowledgeable educators who provide guidance, support, and advocacy for their colleagues on various professional issues. Some of them are helping educators navigate the new CLDE licensure requirements and ensuring they have access to quality and relevant professional development opportunities. Supporting educators who want to pursue national board certification, which is a rigorous and rewarding process that demonstrates excellence in teaching, learning, and an unwavering commitment to student success. Sharing their voices with the district as we implement new curriculum and providing feedback and suggestions on how to improve the alignment, coherence, and effectiveness of the instructional materials and resources. Current classroom educators have unique and invaluable experience when it comes to curriculum. Without a teacher effectively using it, resources are just a stack in a book room. It's sometimes difficult to hear the perspectives of this key stakeholder group, and we're happy to share the perspectives of our classroom educators with district staff so these initiatives can be successful. And we appreciate their commitment to this work. We hope to collaborate more closely with the curriculum instruction and professional learning teams to help them make professional development more relevant, effective, and purposeful for educators so our students can reap the benefits. The JCA Professional Practices Action Team is an essential group of volunteers who want to serve our students by advocating for best practices and professionalism in teaching. We're proud of our efforts to help educators become the teachers our students deserve. We're looking forward to continuing our partnership with central and instructional staff to realize this vision.
JCA is really grateful for the opportunity to be of service to Jeffco Public Schools, our students, and the diversity of our district's families. We're all part of this community together, not just Jeffco educators, but also their families. And we want to thank you as the Board of Ed. You're in a unique position to support Jeffco educators as you have in the past, as we try to raise families in Jeffco. And we really hope that you continue to recognize the opportunities to support these priorities. When the board prioritizes educators and their families, every student benefits. We're really looking forward to continuing this dialogue over the next few months. And thank you so much for your time, your attention, your flexibility in tonight's meeting, and also dealing with Colorado's weather. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Ms. Zavada, do we have someone else now?
Okay, next we do have, I believe it's Wendy Newman. Her name is, she has it as Evergreen Sustainability Alliance, but I do believe it is Miss Wendy Newman. So I'm going to go ahead and I believe I'm inviting her into the room. She'll let us know if that's her. So Evergreen Sustainability, you are in the room. You have been admitted.
Okay. Can you hear me now? I can't see you or hear you. Oh, no, I can hear you. But I thought the other people were still speaking. So I'm sorry if I came in late. Okay, so I turned that off and I'm ready to go. Okay, thanks so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Wendy Newman, and I'm the Executive Director of Evergreen Sustainability Alliance based here in Evergreen. Thank you very much for taking taking my testimony tonight. I would also like to thank you for your continuing efforts to make Jeffco Public Schools more sustainable. As a parent and a member of the community, I fully support the Jeffco Student Parent Climate Action Policy. So I'm here to talk to you about food waste within the schools. The World Wildlife Fund estimates food waste in the US could reach 530,000 tons in 1 year. That's a lot of food waste. When food is wasted, obviously it goes directly into the landfill. And when that happens, methane gas is produced, which is then emitted into the atmosphere. By putting food into the landfill, we're also wasting all of the natural resources that are used to create that food. Evergreen Sustainability Alliance is currently working with some local schools here in Evergreen on collecting their food from the cafeterias. We have this program and it's called Let's Embrace Zero Food Waste. This is not only very good for the planet, but it's a great teaching moment for the kids. We're in elementary schools all the way up to the high schools. It's very impactful when kids know that they're making a difference by just putting their food scraps into a bucket that can be processed rather than be put into the landfill. This program is only working because we have parent volunteers that are taking the food waste scraps from the schools to our compost disposal place here in Evergreen. It's a fantastic program and I love the volunteers, but I also know that it's not sustainable because once your child moves on to the next school, we lose that volunteer. So the program is working, but what we're looking for, and for it to be a success and to be expanded to other areas within the district, is we need a district-wide hauling company to take the food scraps to a commercial facility to be made into compost, which can then be put into the school gardens or greenhouses, which makes it full circle. We're asking Jeffco Public Schools to create a task force to help build solutions that work today and far into the future. The district schools need guidance and top-down leadership that are focused on sustainable solutions. Thank you very much for your time tonight. I appreciate your efforts. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Zavada, do we have someone else?
Yes, next we will have another 3-minute speaker. Her name is Miss Sarah Nelson. Sarah, I'm going to be admitting you into the meeting. She should be coming in momentarily. Yes, next we will have another 3-minute speaker. Her name is Miss Sarah Nelson. Sarah. Okay.
Okay, great. Hi, members of the board. I'm here today because I learned that a local organization that claims to support Jeffco students has, not for the first time, collaborated with the national extremist group to put a spotlight on Jefferson County to direct attention from anti LGBTQ extremists at the district. And I just wanted to chime in and tell you that I hope you will resist any pressure to weaken protections for trans students at Jeffco and continue to keep JBR as it is. I would also like to go ahead and chime in support of the 2 agenda items that you have in front of you today, which would be the endorsing non-legal name changes and the culturally significant graduation attire. And that's all the time I'm going to take up today. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. And do we have anyone else, Ms. Zavada?
Yes, our next speaker is going to be for 3 minutes again. Miss Dolly Mossman, I'm going to be inviting you into the room. You should be admitted momentarily.
Can you hear me now? Okay, sorry. This one's new. I'm used to Zoom, kind of anyway. Anyway, I really appreciate your time this evening. My name is Dolly Mossman, and I appreciate all the efforts that the Jeffco board members are doing for our students. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Okay. Anyway, I'm a mother of a 2014 Golden High School graduate, and I also have 2 grandchildren at Welchester Elementary School. I am talking to you on behalf of the Jeffco Jeffco student parent policy for climate action.
Dolly, are you there?
Can you hear me? I'm having a difficult time on this particular one.
We are hearing you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll just continue. Anyway, my main point is I really want to thank you for initiating a study on climate policy. And I'm just asking that. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we could hear you.
Can you hear me still?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I just feel that it's imperative that we move swiftly in the development of the climate action plan. We have a lot of money available to us from the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, and also the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. There's billions of dollars available for this. I have been active in renewable energy and energy conservation since 1976. I do feel that we really need to do this. I mean, Denver Public Schools has seen over $5.6 million of avoided costs. Not only is it money, it's health, it's the environment, The teachers will want to come to work and feel better about teaching because they feel great. Also, the students will learn because they're not sweating or freezing or whatever. So we do need to provide a very nice environment for them to learn in. I hope that you could hear me, and that will be all I have to say tonight. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Zavada, do we have more?
Yes, we do have 2 more people that are waiting to speak. I'm going to go ahead and invite the next 3-minute speaker in. It's Miss Suzanne Grishpol. So Suzanne, I'm admitting you as I speak.
That will be all I have to say tonight. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Zavada?
Yes, we have 2 more people that are waiting to speak.
Hi there. Great. Am I live? Okay, thank you so much. Chairwoman Parker, Superintendent Dorland, and the rest of the board, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Suzanne Grishpol. I'm a resident of Lakewood, Colorado, and parent of 2 students, at least for the next couple months. One of them is graduating soon, in the Jeffco public school system. As a queer person myself and parent of a trans child, I want to see a world that is safe, affirming, and inclusive for all people, including our children. I just want to commend you all on all of your work on policy JBR. Reading over it is, a tremendous achievement in all of those things, creating a space that is safe, affirming, and inclusive for our trans and gender nonconforming youth. And I see that. My kids go to the Jeffco Open School, and it is honestly really inspiring to see a space where they can be fully themselves, and that all kids can be themselves and be embraced for who they are. I'm here to urge you to continue to support this policy and not give in to pressures to roll back. I think, from a civil rights standpoint, this policy is monumental, especially given the context that we're seeing around the world, and around the country. In other places, trans rights are being attacked and trans youth are being attacked. I think we are really setting the gold standard in Jeffco. And I really appreciate you all for doing that and continuing to do that. I think that's pretty much it. And I also wanted to thank you all for endorsing HB 24-1039 and HB 24-1323 today as well. I think those bills are also really important for trans youth and gender nonconforming youth to show up as they are and be accepted and loved by our school communities. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And Ms. Zavada, you said we have one more person?
Yes, for our final speaker this evening, we have Morgan Richardson. I'm going to go ahead and begin admitting Morgan now.
Sure.
Morgan Richardson.
Yes. Okay, and I was. Hello. Good evening, Chairwoman Parker, Superintendent Dorland, and the rest of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm Morgan Richards. I'm mom of 2 young adults who are Black and were Jeffco students. I'm spouse to Jeff,
who graduated from Jeffco High School many decades ago. We've lived in Wheat Ridge for 24 years. I'm also a local business owner and the founder of Wheat Ridge for Equity. Later tonight, you will endorse HB 24-1039, non-legal name changes, which counts Jeffco's own representative, Brianna Titone, as a primary sponsor, and I couldn't be prouder of that. And HB 24-1323, school graduation attire, who would let kids like mine, who are people who are Black, express their culture and identity as well as any of their peers from non-dominant lived experiences. Our family 100% stands with you in these endorsements and all of your work to make Jeffco Public Schools inclusive and safe. Please keep up your important work of advancing our schools and their inclusivity, protecting our students, and ensuring the supports needed for those learners who are historically harmed and ignored because they are transgender, because they are queer, because they are IBPOC, because they are born outside of the US, because they have different abilities, like our daughter who is on the autism spectrum, because they're of non-dominant religions and or have less economic resources. That's all the time I want to take tonight. Thank you for your service to all of us in community, and good night.
And thank you. And Ms. Zavada, that is the end of public comments. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes,
Now
that
I would like-
concludes public comment. Please
Great.
proceed.
I would like, thank you. And I'd like to thank everybody who did experience the challenge that we are experiencing now, having a virtual meeting. And I know it was sometimes frustrating and a little bit daunting. So I really do appreciate that you stuck with it and you were here tonight with us. We are now ready to go on to reports from board members. Given our virtual setting tonight, we will give our reports in the following order. I will give my report first, followed by Director Applegate, Director Kenworthy, Director Reed, and then Dr. Varda. And once the board has completed their report, Superintendent Dorland will give her report. So I would just like to start out by saying that I had another chance to do a ride along with school bus. This time it was in the central terminal. It is quite the highlight of this year on the board for me. I just want to give a shout out to our bus drivers and the assistants. What they've done with our kids and making them feel so welcome in the morning and in the afternoon. They know everybody by name. They have all this background information on them, and it's just heartwarming to see how they interact with our students. And I have been doing this with our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Gatlin, and so we have also the opportunity to get a real feel for what the routes are looking like and the ridership, how many students are on a bus, and the challenges every day of covering for people who are sick, keeping track of students who are not going to be on the bus that day so that the drivers know not to stop and pick them up. I mean, there's just an amazing amount of work that goes in every day to that work. So I want to give a shout out to them. Also, this past few weeks, the board did meet with our school leadership team. These are representatives from all of our high school articulation areas. And it was wonderful to meet with them and just make you feel good about the future of our country and definitely of our county and our state. So I would like to use that as a transition into acknowledging that we've received lots of emails, phone calls, and other correspondence from our community about the work that the board's doing right now. You heard testimony and public comment of people who wanted to make their voices heard on the legislation that the school board has chosen to support this year. and also reference some of our board policies and what the policies cover. So for me personally, I would just like to say some things that I have said before, and I will probably say again. I want you to know that for me personally, I believe with all my heart that parents are the most important people in their children's lives. And I have been a court appointed special advocate for 17 years now. So I have dealt with kids that have been neglected and abused in Jefferson County. Before that, I taught parenting classes for 18 years, and I taught thousands of parents who were really wonderfully involved and caring and committed parents. So I'm here to say right off the bat, parents are the most important people in a child's life. Good parents, bad parents, all parents. And no matter what side of the work I've been doing, working with the parents that did not live up to the mark and the parents who are going above and beyond, um, I I just have always made it a priority for me to keep the family intact as much as possible. My work with neglected and abused kids, with the Child Protective Services, the goal is always family reunification. So I want to um, assure you, all the community out there, that I have the goal of keeping families safe, strong, empowered, and that will always be a priority for me. So having said that, I do want to also say I'm really proud of our board work this year in supporting legislation. It is largely driven, at least for me, with our interactions with our students. And when the students come together as they do and tell us what will help them make their experience the best it can be, I want to listen and I want to follow through and I want them to feel that their voices are heard. And that's why I'm very proud tonight to be supporting the 3 legislative bills that are coming up. And I want to specifically talk about HB 24-1039 because it's a very simple bill and it is really just zeroing in on the dignity of the students and in all humans, the right to be respected, the right to be recognized for who they are. And this bill, as it is written, does not say anything about parental notification or deception or withholding information, anything like that. This bill is simply saying that our staff should be respecting kids and acknowledging them and calling them by their preferred name. So that's why I support it. It does call for school districts to create their own policies around this legislation, and I'm proud that our district does have a policy in place right now. It's another one that we've gotten a lot of emails on, and that's JBR having to do with transgender rights. So we are following the laws. I have read that policy many, many times as it is written right now. We are in compliance with all state and federal laws. And we also have resolutions that the school board has brought up and voted on that indicate our strong commitment for working with families. So those are things that I am looking forward to doing in the future, finding ways that we can support our kids, our students, and I think that it's a way to make sure that they get the best experience they can in our school district. So with that, I am going to pass on to Director Applegate for her director report.
Thanks, Mary. I first want to just lift up our facilities and transportation teams that have been dealing with, at my house, I think we're over 2 feet of snow now. And so when we're managing facilities across an entire county, that's a lot of work. And so I just want to take a minute to lift up the folks who are making sure our facilities can be safe and accessible when we come back from spring break. I also want to lift up our municipal partners who are doing the exact same thing. We appreciate that you plow our roads and help to keep us safe. So I definitely want to recognize that. I would share President Parker's sentiment on significant correspondence And I have appreciated that we've had lots of different opinions come in, and a lot of people that seem very passionate and caring about the message they're conveying. So that correspondence has been really important to read and go through. I would also say I'm really proud of the fact that in our study session, we did approve preschool curriculum for the first time in a long time, at least as far as I know. And so I'm really proud that we are putting that in place for our youngest learners and our early childhood education centers, and just really proud of us to go in that direction. I'm a little bit sad because the snow canceled some of my school visits for tomorrow, but we're going to get those back on the books really quick. I have been enjoying meetings with our cabinet members, and especially around the budget. I've done a lot of learning and diving into numbers and around some of our mental health supports. So I appreciate the cabinet for taking the time to really walk me personally through a lot of my questions on that. I'm also really proud to see a lot of sustainability discussions. I know we as a district are taking that seriously and having a lot of good conversations about it. You know, how to put people in place, how to put task force in place. So for all of those public comments, we do hear you, we value you, and we've had those discussions, and we are happy to see that starting to have a future in Jefferson County schools. And finally, I will just end with, I hope everyone has a restful and happy spring break. I know coming into the spring, a lot of our educators, it can be tough. And so I just hope everyone can take a breath over the next week and recharge a little bit and come back ready to finish out a really strong and exciting year. And so I'm excited for some of the items on our consent agenda, and I will pass it back. I believe Director Kenworthy is next.
Thank you. So I'm just going to start off my comments by saying I'm so impressed by our students. I've had the opportunity in the last few weeks to spend some time with some of our student leaders and artists and learners of all ages who are growing and developing every single day into these amazing human beings. It's just been really fun to see what our schools are up to. I've attended Read Across America events. That was amazing. I attended our Jeffco Summit and got to experience a lot of really amazing presentations about mental health, about school safety, about our math curriculum, and about how parents can support the mental health of their students at home. I thought that information was incredibly helpful. I recently joined the Lakewood Reinvestment Authority as a school board representative, and I'm encouraged by conversations that are going on there, and that I get to have a deeper look into how our communities and municipalities want to partner with our school district. What else is on here? I wanted to say I saw the Lakewood musical, which was incredible and so much fun. I also attended a handful of the Jeffco Alliance meetings, particularly with a group talking about competitive compensation. I'm witnessing some really great community conversations about hopes for how our district will move forward and continue to work on making sure that we can attract and retain teachers in our district. I attended a legislative session to support some of my fellow board members who were talking in support of menstrual products in schools. And that was an exciting experience. I'm looking forward to going back before the session is over. I wanted to lift up that I know that negotiations are continuing, and that we're doing what's best in the spirit of good faith to meet the needs of our students, that everybody involved in those conversations really are on the same team when it comes to supporting Jeffco students. And I hope that those conversations can continue in that spirit as we all aim to support our students as they are exactly where they are. I want to lift up that climate action and sustainability work is a reasonably large undertaking, one that Jeffco is in conversation about. So we've heard the public comments from our community members and our students especially. And I want to just lift up thanks to Claire for using one of my favorite Margaret Mead quotes this evening. Really loved hearing that. Another thing I want to lift up is that diverse representation in our schools really does matter, whether it's students, whether it's families, whether it's staff, faculty, educators, guest teachers. That diversity is representative of the world that we live in, and it helps to prepare our students for the life that they'll live beyond our schools. And so I also want to note, just lift up the overwhelming support that we've had from the community regarding policy JBR, even though it was not on our agenda to discuss this month, and I don't think it was on our agenda to discuss next month either. But I know that there have been some statewide things going on that have forced a conversation in our communities. And the fact that the overwhelming majority of folks who've reached out are in support of a policy as it currently exists is, I think, a testament to the community that we live in, one that values inclusivity and supports our students as they continue to develop and grow. But I want to express my gratitude also for all of those who have reached out, even those with whom I respectfully disagree with, because we're participating in a conversation that informs the work that happens at the board. And I think anybody who takes the time to reach out with their comments or concerns are participating in ways that are, I think, valuable, as long as they're doing it in a spirit of coming and bringing something to the conversation. We don't all have to agree, but I do think that we need to remember that there is beauty when we look at a stained glass window, for example, where the light and the truth comes through each of those different pieces of a stained glass window for a whole picture to be seen. And so I just really would encourage people to enter into these conversations, even when we disagree, bringing with you your truth and also recognizing that other people have difference in truth as well. That is also valuable to participate in these larger conversations. So again, my thanks to all those who have reached out and are participating in community conversations and showing up for the work. Being in community is not always easy, but it is important, and I'm glad that I get to be here in this position with the rest of you. I will now end my comments for this month with gratitude to Drew for his patience for all of us in this virtual setting. And I believe Director Reed, you are up next.
All righty. So folks may have noticed that when they write to the board, I am often the one who responds. And this month, we have received a number of letters on 2 issues, and I'd like to acknowledge those letter writers. The first has been around protecting students from discrimination based on gender identity or expression. Policy JBR protects students' rights to self-expression and identity. It requires privacy protections within the law and requires schools to address students by the names students wish to be used for them. The board has received many, many letters of concern that we may be contemplating changes to this policy that weaken protections for LGBTQ+ students or create a hostile learning environment for them. So I do want to assure our community that we will continue to value an inclusive environment for all of our children and remain committed to their safety. And we've also received some letters asking that we change the policy. And I think it's important to talk about the fact that it doesn't matter if it appears to be a minority opinion. It matters. It's the expression of concerned families who care about their children. And since the main thing that I've seen as a theme is sort of we're concerned that these policies and that the legislation that you are supporting leads to the deception leads to deceiving parents, that is not a part of either of those things. And we really do not want to cause deception to take place. As President Parker said, we do believe that families are important and that strong unified families are critical to children. So I want you to know that we do read your letters and they matter, and we listen to those opinions. Ultimately, we remain committed to respecting our students' identities. And so for this reason, I am pleased to take legislative positions as a board to protect students' rights to be known by the name they choose and to express their identities when they reach the important milestone of graduation. We're also beginning to receive letters from our valued educators regarding negotiations. And I want to say very clearly that we could not agree more with the concerns our educators have expressed. Competitive compensation, improved leaves and benefits, school safety and discipline, and manageable workloads are critical in order for our educators to do what's best for our students. I assure you that the board is paying attention and urging our team to do everything within the district's means to achieve these ends. On a personal note, I continue to have wonderful school visits, and I'm always gratified to see how happy and engaged our students are. I also appreciate the honest feedback I've gotten from principals about the challenges that they face every day. And reading to kids for Read Across America was especially fun. Really enjoyed that. Also, I've had like more opportunities to meet with kids lately, and it's been fantastic. Had the chance to meet with our student leadership group. They are a phenomenal group of kids. They're sharp, they're thoughtful. They are people that you can feel really good about putting our future in the hands of. So super proud of them and the things that they had to say. I'm meeting with students tomorrow. I was supposed to meet with them in person, but we're going to be doing that virtually. But I just love that I had high school kids reach out to me and say, "Hey, you're my board rep and I want to talk to you." I think that's fantastic. And I cannot encourage kids enough to keep doing that. Come to public comment, tell us what you think, reach out to us, because student voices matter a very great deal to this board. Superintendent Dorlin and I had the opportunity to help out loading food for the Action Center Grub Club program, and Mr. Gittner spoke about this earlier, but this is a program that matters a great deal to me. I always appreciate our association's leadership on this, and that's associations plural, because both JCEA and JESPA work on that, as well as PTA and other groups. The Grubhub program was in danger of disappearing in 2014. The Action Center could no longer sustain it. And if you don't know the work of this group, they feed our homeless and emancipated teenagers. They come in once a week and they get a box of food, and it makes sure that they're doing all right. And it was our associations that stepped up to keep it alive. Also, I had the pleasure of attending the morning session of the Spring Jeffco Summit. It was fantastic. Great event. Wonderful to see so many of our community members there. And finally, I want to congratulate the students whose artwork appeared in the Equity and Excellence art show that I had the opportunity to attend. We have such incredibly talented students. I just can't say enough phenomenal things about them. And that is the end of my comments, and I'll be turning it over to Dr. Barta.
Well, I'll make mine pretty short. So I guess I wanted to start by saying I'm just really proud to be on a board that is doing such good work across so many complex topics, especially over the last few weeks. We have been really inundated with a lot of comments from people around really sensitive issues, I think, for our students and our teachers and families, our staff. And I'm just proud of the comments made tonight and the way that our board has shown up in different ways and responses and interactions. So it's been more prevalent for me than lately that we are kind of all on the same page and ready to do this good work together. One way we did some of this was, I attended the elimination of the BS factor education rally at the Capitol with our association, a lot of our associations membership there, a lot of legislators, and also just stakeholders across the state who are really proud of that. I am also proud of that. I think that's good news. I also want to emphasize it's not that we have adequate funding yet. We have just finally got to a point where we're back to a level from 1989. And so thank goodness we're there. And I just want to encourage our legislators and advocates to continue to work on our increased funding opportunities for public school funding in the state. Also got to testify on a bill promoting the free menstrual-free period products in all of our schools across the state, something I really also support, and was glad to be there on behalf of the board after we collectively agreed to endorse that bill as well. So happy that we're on that path and showing leadership as a large district around items in legislation that align with our policies, and that are first and foremost supporting our kids and their success. So, and lastly, I would just say we've had so much outreach just from people who want to talk to us about all of these different issues. And so that's been really engaging, I think, in the last month, phone calls and messages and just the interaction. I've been focused on going to our PTA and SAC meetings, and I was able to attend some of those. I have some planned coming up, and that's been really meaningful, I think, to sit down with parents in the evenings, almost always, to hear about what they're concerned about, and get to bring that back to the work that I do. And this is the season, I think, again, for theater, a lot of musicals and music and choir. So I got to see Something Rotten at AWS, which was one of the best musicals I have ever seen. And I think and seeing a few more at the other high schools, and they're just outstanding. Our teachers are working lots of hours to get those put on, and the kids and everyone it's been a lot of fun to be able to go to those things. Yeah, and I just want to thank the schools that host us for Read Across America and get to spend some time sitting with kids and reading with them and answering their 30 questions about us that I always never expect, but it's so fun to answer. So yeah, that's all I really have tonight. I'm looking forward to the rest of our meeting.
Thank you. And Superintendent Dorland, do you have a report for us?
Okay, I figured it out. Thank you, Drew. I do have some things to talk about this evening. Hold on one second. I'm struggling a little bit with my my mouse here. There we go. I'm really excited. Thank you, Dr. Varda, for highlighting some of the musical productions that have been going on. I had the opportunity to go to Lakewood High School last week and see their production of Legally Blonde. I was able to take my daughter, Olivia, and my mom to the show. So thank you to the school for getting us 3 tickets. I got to tell you, the talent, commitment, and passion that was put into the show was absolutely inspiring by both the students and the amazing educators and staff who support them. I mean, it was everything from the performances of those who were the actors and the ensembles that they put on, but the production itself was amazing, to the amount of energy and effort that went into the stage set. The orchestra played all of the songs for the students, for the student performers. There were 2 live dogs in the show. Anyway, I want to thank Lakewood High School for a special night that I got to spend with my daughter and my mom, really enjoying watching their show. Also, I want to share with the board that the Jeffco Alliance has met 4 times and has done some great work identifying future investments for Jeffco in the areas of teacher and staff compensation, safe and welcoming environments for students and staff, and of course, High School Reimagined, which, you know, we want to have in place, allowing students to have more career connected and relevant learning experiences in our high schools before they graduate. So that's very exciting. In April, you'll hear a presentation at your study session about our Student Leadership Board. And several of you mentioned being able to meet with the Student Leadership Board. I had the opportunity, along with some of you, and even before you met with them, some of our cabinet members, to spend time with the student board a few weeks ago. And we engaged with them as a cabinet group in conversations about our own leadership journeys and what it took for us to get through our careers and be where we are today. And we also then got to hear about our students' journeys, both as a student and as leaders in their schools. And it was just really great. I am excited to be going to the Capitol with these same students on April 4th. So our future leaders can meet with our current Jeffco leaders who serve in our legislature. That's going to be a really fun event. And speaking of the legislature, I have been at the Capitol a number of times since the legislative session began to advocate for Jeffco especially around the school finance formula. And this is connected to my work as co-chair of the Front Range Superintendents Group, where I work closely with my superintendent colleagues on important issues facing public education in Colorado, especially right now, school finance. So that's been really important work that I've been able to do this month. Paula, thank you for mentioning the Grubhub volunteer opportunity that you and I both took advantage of. I was amazed at the pallets of food and personal products that were stacked and ready to go to the Jeffco Action Center by our JESPA and JCEA colleagues. It was inspiring, and I was glad to be able to spend just a little bit of time helping to organize, because there was a lot to organize. So thank you to JCEA and JESPA for their leadership in supporting our high needs families and students. I was also able to just this week speak with the JCEA Council at their March meeting. I was really honored to be invited by Brooke Williams. Thank you, Brooke, for having me. And I was able to talk with our JCEA leaders in one place. There was representation from JCEA across all of our schools. They were all together at their monthly meeting, and I was able to go and share some information with them from the State of the District presentation, as well as just answer a bunch of questions and engage in conversation. And that was a really meaningful part of my week this week. Based on a lot of public comment and advocacy from our students and many families, I am pleased to share with the board and our listening public that we are working currently on a sustainability program manager position. And so this is a position that will be part of Jeff Gatlin's team and will be able to really own and help us move some of our sustainability interests forward. And I am so grateful to our students and our families for their advocacy in this space, and really excited to have somebody in charge of this work that can help us take some concrete next steps. And finally, I would like to make sure that everybody is aware, it's spring break, and I said to the board in your weekly update, I'm excited for the springtime. And especially for Erin, you and Michelle, springtime in Jeffco is special. It sort of kicks off right before spring break with these, performances, which are wonderful. But there are so many things coming up, including graduations, which are all of our favorites. They're just so special. But also the district art show is coming. The Jeffco Schools Foundation is having a sip and support event that I invite all of our board members, obviously, to. You've already received your invitations, but I invite our listening public to check out the sip and support event and really, or just stop by the Arvada Center to see the high school district art show. It's incredible. The amount of time, energy, and effort that our art teachers put into this at both the elementary, middle, and high school level is also inspiring. And so really excited for our spring events together and looking forward to celebrating our students throughout the rest of the school year.
All right. Thank you so much, Superintendent Dorland. And that brings us to the study session portion of our meeting. The board has 3 items for study tonight, with one of those items requiring a vote of the board. You may hear some moments of silence before each presentation as our audiovisual engineer prepares our presenters. I'm going to ask the board members to reserve their comments for when presenters request them, or actually I think it's best if we leave our comments to the end of the presentation, given tonight's virtual setting. So we are going into the second quarter 2023-24 financial report review and dialogue with the Financial Oversight Committee. We have allotted 45 minutes for this presentation. And this first topic will give the Board of Education a chance to discuss the second quarter 2023-24 financial report and have the opportunity to discuss with its Financial Oversight Committee. And on a side note, just to give them acknowledgement, when we do vote on our revision to our committee policy, we will be referring to this committee as the Financial Advisory Committee in the future. Consistent with statutory requirements, the district prepares and publishes quarterly financial reports that are interim and unaudited financial statements. The reports are posted publicly on our Financial Transparency website and reviewed with our Financial Oversight Committee. Members of the FOC will share a set of conclusions and recommendations based in part on their review of the quarterly financial report and in part on other meeting content and discussions. I want to sincerely thank the members of the FOC for their work to provide the board timely insight into the financial well-being of the district. And before I turn this over to Ms. Copeland and the Financial Oversight Committee, Superintendent Dorland, is there anything you would like to add?
Thank you, President Parker. I just want to reiterate your gratitude for the committee members. I'd like to express that to all the committee members who might be watching tonight. The time they spend with us is part of very busy days that they have as parents and professionals and community members. So thank you to everybody who commits to being part of this work with us. And with that, I'll hand it over to Ms. Copeland. Welcome.
Are you ready for us? Great. Super. All right, board members, I am happy to be with you this evening. Hope that everyone is warm and safe. I'm about to start the second quarter financial report. Our controller, Christy Moss, had a family emergency come up just now, and I know she's disappointed not to be with you, but bear with us. And then I will turn it over to folks from the FOC who will share their recommendations and conclusions based on their past several months of work. So without further ado, and please do jump in with questions at any point. I'm happy to stop. So just a quick reminder on our timeframes. The second quarter covers, it covers the first quarter, which is July to the end of September, and then second quarter, October through December. So this report includes all that activity. On the slides that you'll see, we include an approximate benchmark being an expected level of revenue or spend at 50%. That being said, typically the district has spent somewhere between 47 and 48% of its full year expenditures as of December 31st. So the 50% really is approximate. There is not a set benchmark for revenue. We record revenue as it comes in, and it is very lumpy. So not to worry when we get to that portion. A little bit of context, salary expense for many employees in July and August is on the prior year's pay rate. School-based activities start up in mid-August, and this report does not reflect any budget changes. So as we're comparing budget to actuals, please note this is the budget as adopted, not the revised budget that you approved in January, because this time frame is really only through December. This is a graph showing our FY22 and FY23 quarterly spend, Q1, Q2, 3, etc. And again, this is illustrating that we typically spend about 23% of the full year in Q1 and anywhere between 24 and 25 in Q2. Q4 is always our biggest spend month. Okay, so just a moment to orient. I'm going to see if I can make this any bigger. I don't know if that'll matter to you all at all. But in the absence of anyone talking besides me, I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right. So over here on the right, you see a graph. The orange bar is the budget bar for the entire year. The green bar is the actual through the current period. So again, through December 31st. And the gray bar is the prior year actual through the same time period. So it's really helpful to look at a year-over-year trend as you compare green to gray. And then it's helpful to also look, there's this little dot that hovers above the green bar. That's that 50% benchmark. So another useful comparison is the green bar to the dot. So that's a quick orientation to our visuals. Great. So as you can see in the general fund, actual revenue is higher than prior year. It's at 221 compared to 210. That's about a 11 million-ish increase. As a reminder, local tax revenue comes in March and May, and we did hot off the press get a large cash deposit this week from the county based on that first round of tax collections. In terms of expense, we're trending at around 432 million, which is about 7 million higher than prior year. And it's a little bit below the 50% benchmark at 47%, but that is, again, consistent with year-over-year trends. So that's the general fund. Oops, I may have skipped a couple. Apologies, I wasn't quite ready with the deck, and I'm having to use the PDF version. Okay, Capital Reserve Fund. So the sources of funds on an annual basis into the Capital Reserve Fund is primarily our transfer, but also some interest income. And we do try and record that as we go through the year. So on the revenue side or sources side, you see that we're right at about 12.7 million. That's pretty even with the prior year, even though we had decreased the transfer. And the reason it's even is because of that interest income, which is sort of offsetting a little bit. I do want to point out that the January budget reset the transfer, and we'll go ahead and true up for the whole year for the Capital Reserve Fund. Actual expense is 10 million greater than the prior year, but still well below the 50% benchmark. So this fund is budgeted and appropriated at about 58 million for the current year. We probably will not spend that much this current year, but that is the sort of maximum, if you will, for the year. Here is the grants fund. Actual revenue is a little bit, well, it looks like it's more than 2% greater. Anyway, actual revenue is at about 23 million through Q2. And as you can see, we were at only 8 million. So I would say that's more than 2% greater. Nonetheless, I think a lot of that has to do with, we recognize revenue in most of our grants as a reimbursement. So once we incur the expense, we then submit the reimbursement request to CDE for our large grants. And that's the moment when we record the revenue. Expense is trending at 34 million through December 31st. That is higher than the prior year, but still under the 50% benchmark. We did expect that uptick in both spending and the related revenues because we knew we were this year going to be spending down most of the balance of ESSER 3.
Yeah, and Brenna, if I can just jump in, I'll just mention that if we want to adjust that 2% before we make the board docs final, I see Mary shaking her head yes. I'll just note for the board that we'll just adjust that and make sure that that's accurate before we finalize the docs.
Absolutely. We will make sure to get that corrected.
Thanks, Brenna.
Okay, I want to take a moment and speak to our food services fund. Again, here you see both green bars are trending higher than their gray bar friends from the prior year. This means that activity has in fact picked up in the food services fund. This was expected and planned. The Healthy Meals for All Act is now in effect and provides funding for free breakfasts and lunch in places where the National School Lunch Program doesn't. Of course, we still participate in the National School Lunch Program. That is a primary source of revenue into this fund, et cetera. So in what you do see, though, also is that those green bars are a little bit higher than the 50% benchmark. And so in light of that, I think we made some minor adjustments with the revised budget in January to make sure that we could continue to pay for what we needed and serve our kids who are eating more meals this year than last year. I'm going to keep going. Campus activity funds. Again, this fund collects some fees and other items, other miscellany, and then deploys them immediately towards supplies and materials and qualifying activities. The actual revenue is really about even to prior year. 1.7% is not a significant variance. Actual expense is a little bit higher, but again, what you're seeing is funds in and out of campus activity is pretty predictable. It matches year over year, and we do expect to hit that 26 million spend by the end of the year. Transportation fund. So actual revenue is a little bit higher than prior year, but again, not a material variance there. Revenue is higher than the 50% benchmark simply because of the timing of the categorical funds that we receive from the state. That effectively comes in a little front-loaded. The rest of revenue into this particular fund is actually just the transfer from the general fund. So I don't see any cause for concern or necessarily celebration that revenue number is a little higher than the 50% benchmark. That's just timing. Expense is really tracking right at the 50% level. That's great news. It is higher than the prior year. That increase can be attributed to multiple things, to a certain extent to wage increases, fuel costs, and also some unexpected contracted expenses. In the child care fund includes two big buckets of activity for the district. One is our pre-K programming, and the other is school-age enrichment programming. Our pre-K programming, as planned, has ticked up quite a bit this year in comparison to the prior year. So again, those green bars are much taller than the gray bars. Actual revenue is 25% greater, and actual expenses 78% greater. Actual revenue looks like more than 25% greater. I'm going to work on that one too, Tracy. Sorry. But again, this was planned. You're seeing that we are trending towards that 50% benchmark. We did significantly increase both expected revenue and expense in this fund as a result of UPK. We are very excited to be serving more kids in pre-K this year than last year, and being able to do so with the resources that we're grateful to have from the state. Insurance reserve fund, we are seeing that revenue is around 8.3 million compared to the prior year, same time frame, 6.3. That the difference there really just reflects a change to the general fund transfer based on this year's budget for insurance reserve. We set this budget based on how much we know we're going to have to pay in insurance premiums, and then also any trends around one-time payments. The actual expense is actually a little bit lower than the prior year. That variance is really just due to timing of certain one-time payments. The FY24 budget anticipated a 10% increase compared to the prior year. And I think that's probably, that may have been a conservative projection. So we'll keep monitoring the insurance reserve fund to see whether or not we're actually going to spend the full 15.8. If we don't, it'll just sit in reserves, which is the appropriate way to handle funds in a fund called Insurance Reserve Fund. Okay. Technology Services Fund. This fund pays for staff who serve all our schools, and in fact, many of these staff are actually located in schools. It also pays for quite a bit of equipment, a lot of our device purchases and other software purchases, those types of things. Actual revenue is a little bit lower than prior year, and that really just reflects a slight decrease in our E-rate revenue. which we're not worried about, and potentially some timing of other grants related revenue, which is still a small portion of what comes into this fund. Actual expense is a little bit higher. That can be attributed to wage increases, repairs and maintenance costs, and system administration costs. But both are trending very close to that 50% benchmark, so I'm not worried about any of the year-over-year comparisons. And that is it for the quarterly report. Before I turn it over to FOC, which will be much more exciting than my presentation, I'm certainly happy to entertain any questions. Just so I can see your faces for a minute, I'm going to stop sharing.
Do any board members have questions for Ms. Copeland? I have one question. The child care pre-K fund, there's so much of it in the news, how, the state funding was nowhere near enough for the interest level and so forth. What are your concerns going forward as a district in that area?
Mm-hmm. That is a great question. I think that we experienced this year a little bit of uncertainty. And right before the start of the year, the state changed what they were going to provide on behalf of our lower income students. I'm sure you recall that, back in early summer, we thought each low income student would qualify for full day pre-K. They ended up only able to fund half day. The overall program is still funding at a level a little higher than what they had originally, the bare minimum, right? So this is this half day versus 10 hours question. So we're still glad that we're getting the half day funding in a lot of cases, in all cases. And so as we think about how much it could cost going forward versus the resources available, we're going to need to plan somewhat conservatively. So I will say from a district perspective, we've been working closely with our leaders in early childhood to make sure that we open seats and sites in the place where there is the matching demand. So we are doing a little bit of changing in terms of where those seats are going to be for next year to make sure we maximize every pre-K site and serve kids to the best of our ability in the right distribution across the district. I like to be optimistic, hopeful that the state will continue to honor the same level of funding as the current year. They're contemplating like a 2% increase, which is not quite keeping up with CPI. So that does put pressure on us. From the district's lens, and of course this will come forward in the coming months for the board, we're going to attempt to basically cover the rest, if you will, whatever's necessary to go ahead and pay our educators a fair increase year over year. We're not going to try and peg anything to that 2%, but it will continue to be a question going forward as we try to level out and figure the right operating scale. That was long-winded, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So I guess if we have no more questions on that part of the presentation, we can move on.
Great, so I will turn it over to Jessica Keene, who is our FOC chairman. She also has Robert Last with her, who is on our FOC. We're very lucky to have both of them. They're very knowledgeable, bring great conversation to the FOC. They prepared conclusions and recommendations. Board members, if you could just give me a quick thumbs up if you would like me to share my screen with those, or if you prefer to not have that and see all the faces. Which is it? Thumbs up means you would like me to share my screen with the recommendations. Thank you. I will do that. And then Jessica, you are up.
Awesome. Thank you for having us today. We spent a lot of time since we last spoke with you, kind of looking at current state of things, reviewing financial results, but also having some deeper conversations about where sources of funds are coming in from and what that will potentially look like for the district heading into the future. And had a lot of deep conversation about what we can do as a district to sort of present that and the need for that to the voting public. I'm going to turn it over to Rob because he was kind of the driver for how we came up with our conclusions.
Great. Thank you very much, Jessica. My name is Rob Last. I'm a member of the Financial Oversight Committee, soon to be, I guess, the Financial Advisory Committee. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. I also want to take this opportunity to show appreciation for Superintendent Tracy Dorlin, the Board of Education board members, as well as CFO Brenda Copeland and her team. Without everyone's support, we would not be able to do our job. So thank you very much for all your assistance and your transparency. It's greatly appreciated. As we look at the numbers and the insights that are presented by both the board as well as Brenna's group, a couple of themes came to mind that really stand out. One is the fixed revenue, which is determined by the state based on the number of students, to simplify it. And then there's the variable component of revenue derived from mill levies. And so looking through those lenses, we took a two-tiered approach. One is how can the Jeffco School District best utilize their funds internally as an internal metric and be as efficient as possible with the funds. And it seems that that is going quite well from our perspective. And then the second component is how do we compare to the surrounding districts, since it is a competitive environment and the main resource of the school district is obviously personnel. So on that, the big thing that stood out for us is that the FOC came to understands that Jeffco does not have the same financial resources as the surrounding districts on a per student basis. Yet we still need to compete for the same personnel to teach our children and support them. So that was a big item that caught our attention. One of the metrics there is the average pay per teacher, and that's below other districts in the area. The other one that we recognize is the importance of raising those funds. Again, the best metric we saw is how is that done in the surrounding districts, because again, that impacts our competitiveness. So our recommendations based on these factors is that the district should share comparative analysis for the supplemental revenues across districts so that the voters can best understand how much money is available per student versus the neighboring districts per student. So we're comparing a apples to apples comparison. This analysis should include the current mill levy override and the amounts that are available and the maximum allowable amounts. The other information we've seen here is that other districts have higher maximum allowable mill levy rates. So as each year passes, they are getting incrementally higher revenue than we are in Jeffco. Similarly, we want to not only look at how we're doing based on revenue, but we should do a comparative analysis on a similar metric for expenses so that the voters understand how we're deployed in Jeffco versus the neighboring districts. So we think these are key comparison metrics that include student to staff ratios, average teacher salaries, and that should be related on several sample levels of education and experience, as well as school administrative expense per student and central administrative expense per student. Again, the goal from our perspective is to try to get metrics that are can be easily compared district to district so we can maintain our competitiveness within the Denver metro area. Additionally, we feel the district should explain how any future mill levy override dollars would work alongside existing dollars to deliver the best outcomes for our students. I appreciate the time to share our insights, and I welcome any questions or comments that the group may have.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Board members, do you have any questions? I will ask a question.
Okay.
Ms. Copeland, actually, based on the recommendations that we saw, which I think are very good ones, how easy will it be to create some visuals that compare us to other districts? I do think that the Alliance, when I attended the first Alliance meeting, the picture full that shows, you know, when the local taxes go up, it just means the state part of it goes down. The picture does not get overflowing with just property taxes going up. So anyway, I guess my question is, can we create a picture? Can we create something that will be a nice visual to do what these recommendations suggest we do?
Thank you, Board Member Parker. As you know, us finance geeks love to churn out the numbers, but we aren't always necessarily the best at creating the best visuals. So I do think we would like to partner with our colleagues in communications. And then if there are folks outside the district who are really, really good at this stuff, we'd love to try and tap into their expertise. But I feel confident that that the data that the FOC is recommending that we share is all data that we can pull and prepare some materials for the board's review, the superintendent's review.
Great, I look forward to seeing it. Any other comments, board members? Superintendent? Yeah, Ms. Director Reed?
Sorry.
You're muted, Director Reed.
I am out of the habit of doing the Zoom meetings. Sorry about that. I just want to say how important I think community input is on this. And so I am just so grateful to our FOC for the work that they do. And I do want just to highlight the fact that these are conclusions that our community members who have been presented with the information have come to. And so I hope that other community members will see the value in that, because I just think it's really a critical thing to have.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment? Dr. Varda?
Sorry, I forgot I'm supposed to do a virtual hand raise. But I also just want to thank Robert and Jessica for both serving on the committee and then volunteering to come and speak with us tonight and putting these comments together. And I think that the value of having you all in the committee is bringing your diverse view from what we are normally thinking about and discussing to the conversation. And so I think that that's a strength of what you all have been able to do. And I just would encourage, and hopefully you will feel empowered to continue to ask questions and bring critical thinking to the work, because otherwise we're just all, you know, kind of in one kind of way of thinking. And so it's really helpful. And then I just wondered, you know, like going forward, with this information that we might get, how do you feel like it would be most valuable to us? Should we, and maybe this is just a question back for the committee to consider later, knowing what we know, you know, I think what we're trying to do is figure out, should we be trying to beat out the other districts and, you know, pay more and be better? Should we try to align with them? Knowing what you know about our budgets and our constraints and our challenges, you know, how can we as a board best use that kind of information comparative across other districts?
So I think probably the best use of the information is to part of finance is communicating the problem. And a lot of that is what these comparative metrics are kind of meant to do. And I think being able to communicate to voters what we need to be able to do the best job we can for our students is really what the tool is for. I don't have any comment about we need to be the best or the middle of the pack. I kind of think that's up to the voters. But having the tools available to us to communicate where we're at and where we'd like to be in terms of outcomes for students, I think is probably what we're hoping to accomplish with those metrics.
Okay. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate the effort, time, and energy that you've put into this. I'm glad that you have the expertise that you do, bringing it to the table. So thanks very much, and look forward to accomplishing and moving forward on your recommendations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Okay. All right, and that brings us to the next item on our agenda, the capital investment update. The board will receive an update on the district's capital improvement program, or CIP, revenues, commitments, expenditures, and reporting as it relates to closing out the 2018 CIP, bridge year capital projects, and the development and introduction of a long-term strategic capital plan. Tonight's capital update presentation highlights the progression of the capital program initiated in 2018, aimed at enhancing educational facilities to foster safe, encouraging learning environments. With 95% of the projects from the 2018 capital improvement program initiated, including field lights, installations across various high schools, significant renovations at Wheat Ridge High School, and the construction of the new Fletcher Miller School, the focus shifts towards completing these initiatives and planning for the future. The presentation covers these projects, emphasizing the strategic use of funds from the bond passed in 2018 and the Capital Reserve Fund. And before I turn this over to Mr. Gatlin, the Chief Operating Officer, Superintendent Dorland, is there anything you would like to add?
Thank you, President Parker. Hello, Mr. Gatlin. Welcome to our virtual meeting here this evening. We look forward to hearing your update. I just want to share a message of gratitude to our board for their prioritization of the Fletcher Miller project. We've all visited the school. I know not everyone in our listening public has visited Fletcher Miller, but I think this is one of the most important investments that we can make at this time to support some of our highest needs students and families and some of our hardest working staff. And so I just want to thank the board for that. And I'm looking forward to you all receiving an update on where we are with that project. So among many other projects as well that are also important. So Mr. Gatlin, with that, I'll hand it over to you. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Dorland. Good evening, President Parker and the rest of the board members. I did want to introduce my co-presenters tonight. So joining me for this, Brenna Copeland, who you just heard from, Shanine Rosario, who is our Executive Director of Finance Planning and Analysis, and Tim Reed, our Executive Director of Facilities and Construction Management. I'm going to attempt to share my screen now, and I might need a audio confirmation that this is working. Can you see my screen now? Awesome, great. So the topics of this presentation, as you all know, the current capital program began in 2018 and has been carried out to enhance our schools, ensuring they provide safe, encouraging environments that foster growth, learning, and creativity. So today or tonight, we will really do this in two kind of distinct parts. The first part will be more project focused and specific, and the second part will be more financially focused. So the first part will be reviewing the current status of the capital program, which includes capital projects from the 2018 CIP, what we're calling bridge year projects, and then future planning, which will include the development and implementation of our strategic capital plan. And then also you'll receive a capital financial update that includes capital sources, 2018 CIP expenditures, and capital planning and preliminary fiscal year 24-25 budget. So the first thing I wanted to touch on with the 2018 Capital Improvement Program, or the CIP as we commonly refer to it, is what really one of the overall goals of the 2018 CIP was. And that was to reduce the district's FCI, which is Facility Condition Index. Back in 2017, 2018, it was at about 20.4%. And our goal was to cut it in half and maybe even drive it closer to 9%. And really what that means when we're looking at these percentages is we divide the cost of needed repairs in a facility and divide it by the replacement value of the facility. So if we have a $30 million replacement value of a facility and we have $3 million in repairs, then that would have an FCI of 10%, just to give you an idea of what this means. So you can kind of see the trend that we have experienced with the implementation of the 2018 CIP. And just one interesting tidbit, if we actually removed from this calculation our facilities that have been surplused and closed, where we aren't providing services for students, that number drives closer right now to about 9.5%. This is a summary of the 2018 CIP projects by phase, and this is purely around the project count. And what you'll see is the percentage of projects as it relates to the count, not the dollars behind this, but this is strictly count about how many projects have been completed, how many are in their closeout phase, the construction phase, so on and so forth. And based on project count, 95% of defined bond projects have been initiated as of February 2024. And I want to pause there for a couple things. First, to celebrate the fact that 290 plus projects have been completed or in their closeout phase. And that's quite an accomplishment in its own. So I do want to highlight that. I also want to highlight the fact that we have 2 projects that have been moved to on hold, and those represent the possible 2 new school future builds that were contemplated in the CIP, and they were switched to being on hold because we need to contemplate the landscape, which has changed since 2017. And kind of related to that, the ongoing boundary study is allowing us to triangulate current capacities, enrollment projections, and the pace of new housing developments. The upcoming strategic capital plan will help us get more insights into our current facilities. And these 2 strands of work are increasing our understanding of where capacity may be needed and how and if we can leverage our current facilities. So just a note on those 2 that recently were shifted to on hold. So I wanted to transition into kind of what are some of the current projects out of the 2018 CIP. And I was going to turn this over to Tim to talk through a few of the specific projects, some of which President Parker mentioned in her introduction, to give a little more detail on the project status and some of the happenings with those. So I want to just transition to Tim to talk about these, and then I'll come back to kind of wrap up the project portion of this presentation.
Thank you, Jeff. Starting with the high school field lights, the contract has been awarded and you've approved it, and we're ready to begin the installation of at least the wire for energizing the lights, and we're going to use a direct boring method, so there won't be any trenching on the sites. We'll just bore underground and install the wire that way, and then the lighting and poles will be delivered to the individual schools by the end of April. We have 3 electrical contractors doing the work, and they're arranged geographically. So one handles the north, one handles the central area, one handles the south. We have also been in contact with the municipalities, advising them of what the plan is, getting their okay on doing this work, and sharing with them how we intend to both control the amount of spill light and that type of thing, and sharing with them our specifications, which are very rigid as far as making sure the lighting disturbs the neighborhoods the least and is focused strictly on the fields. So we've received the okay from all but one. And the athletic directors of the individual high schools have been working closely with communications to get out and reach out to the neighbors that live nearby and make sure that they're informed of what's going on and what our plans are. And as I understand it, that those communications are going quite well. So that's sort of where we are with the field lighting. So this is the Wheat Ridge High School renovation, which is another of the big projects that we currently have going on. And just to kind of recap the work that we did last summer, we replaced the entire electrical system in the building. We replaced the chiller and the boilers, and we replaced the artificial turf field at that location. Of the original construction contract, that was $10.5 million. We've spent $6.5. Going into the summer of 2024, we're going to be doing the entry work, which is what you're seeing in this rendering, with the facade replacement, new glazing throughout the secure vestibule. We'll also be doing the student commons, the library and adjacent classroom remodels, and the west area roof will be replaced. In addition, we will be doing new flooring throughout the building, with the exception of the science and art rooms. And in those areas, we'll also be doing additional painting and finish work. There's also a furnishings and fixtures and equipment package that will be going in, and we're addressing a sewer pipe issue that we have as well. We'll wrap the work up at Wheat Ridge in the summer of 2025, and that will include the cafeteria, architectural and acoustic renovations. We're doing flooring and painting over in 2024. We'll be doing landscaping and resolving some site maintenance and drainage issues. We'll be replacing the science rooms and the plumbing, and doing plumbing repairs, casework, and finishes there. We'll also be doing a significant amount of work in the auditorium, replacing the lighting controls, renovating the stage, doing acoustic improvements, dealing with ADA issues and finishes. We're doing unit ventilator replacements on the east classroom wing. We'll be finishing the LED lighting installation that we started in 2023. We're also replacing bleachers in the main gym, and some asbestos removal will be going on. And then we have the some exterior metal panels on the outside that'll be replaced. That will pretty much wrap up the work in, like I said, in 2025, and most of that is supported by the additional $6 million that you authorized a few months ago. So final large project that we have going on right now is the Fletcher Miller Special School. We had a final review of the construction drawings this week. That's an internal review where the architect presents to the not only the design team, but our project management team, but the facilities team as well. And we go through the drawings individually. We'll be releasing the drawings to bid in early April, and there's a significant amount of contractor interest in the project. Looking at the floor plan here, to the left, in the C shape, those are the K-12 classrooms. In the center of that area, those are support facilities. As you move over to the kind of orange color, those are common area facilities. Below that is the pre-K space. And then to the right, you have the Lighthouse and the JTS programs there. So one of the items as we do the site development, we'll be removing the planetarium. It's been closed since the early 2000s. And we do have members approach us occasionally about reopening it, but we advise them that the facility is scheduled to be removed. We've been working with our best team project manager into answering some questions and providing some additional information. The grant awards will be made in mid-May, and our plan is to bring the contract to you for board approval in June, and we'll start construction in June and plan on opening for the 2025-26 school year. So that's kind of where we are with work that's underway right now. So I'll turn it back over to Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Reed. Appreciate you going through those projects in a little more detail. Whoops. I did want to, as we transition from the 2018 CIP, we were finding ourselves in newer territory around phasing out of the 2018 CIP, working through what we're calling bridge year projects, and then the development and implementation of the strategic capital plan. So I just wanted to show just some estimated timelines around how this work tends to overlap a little bit. And I think this is demonstrated even through the consent items that you see on the agenda tonight, where the funding source for two of the projects are the 2018 CIP. One of the funding sources for the other project is capital reserve. And so that signifies kind of this shift that we're starting to make out of the CIP into capital, not only that long-term plan, but what we're doing in the interim until we get there. So just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what that phasing looks like. As it relates to those upcoming bridge year projects, this is a list of identified projects that we're gonna plan and work towards. Really, these were identified as more critical need based on our deficiency database around deferred maintenance. There's one particular project on here that is in the consent agenda that I wanted to point out with roof replacements. That there's I believe about a 1.4-ish ask to be approved in the consent agenda tonight. And I did want to update the board that although we do have insurance for those types of things, our deductible for wind and hail is 2% of the replacement cost of the facility. And so you can imagine, with a $15 million replacement cost, the deductible is $300,000. And so unfortunately, we are paying a decent amount for those repairs before our insurance kicks in. And this really is due to we've seen some pretty intense increases in premiums due to large events that have happened in recent years. And so just wanted to kind of point that one out, that's a reason why that one is how it looks. But these are pretty traditional deferred maintenance items. You see HVAC infrastructure, parking lot replacements, some other things like that. And so I just want to give you a flavor of what those look like, what we're planning for. And this is while we're developing and working towards the implementation of that strategic capital plan. So behind that, what is a strategic capital plan, and why do we value it? Why do we want it? Really, it's designed to guide the district in managing and allocating its capital investments over several years and aligning those investments to our strategic goals. And the main purposes really include strategic alignment. We can ensure that investments support the organization's long-term objectives in a cross-functional manner. And I want to point out this cross-functional manner is something that we've identified as really important to us, making sure that this strategic capital plan not only encompasses the needs of our facilities department, but also has our technology needs built in, also has safety and security needs built into that, and making sure that the plan is aligned to our strategic goals. Financial management, planning for future financial needs, budgeting and forecasting to maintain financial stability. Risk management, identifying potential risks early and developing strategies to mitigate them. Resource optimization, prioritizing projects to ensure the most efficient use of resources for the highest return. And then stakeholder communication. This plan allows us to provide transparency about future investments and direction. We did publish an RFP for these consulting services, and we're in the process of evaluating the responses and figuring out next steps with that. So we haven't made a selection yet. We're still going through that process, but really we're excited about this plan, really creating a clear vision and roadmap for our capital needs across the district. Once we get kind of through this transitioning out of the CIP and past this bridge year. And so with that kind of sums up and wraps up the project portion of this. I did want to transition this to the financials and introduce Brenna, who will introduce the financial update portion of this, and then we'll certainly take questions, any comments that you have at any time.
Great. Thank you so much, Jeff. And I'm pretty quick here, and then I'm going to hand it off again. And thank you for driving, Jeff. As you all know, financial services has been staffing up the function to be able to support capital financial reporting, planning, and management in the coming years. Shawneen Rosario is our Executive Director of Finance Planning and Analysis. She now oversees the team that does our enrollment forecasting and a soon-to-be team that does capital financial management and treasury management. And with that, I'm going to hand it to her. She's going to share both a multi-year view and some context about CIP, non-CIP, CRF, non-CRF, all the acronyms. So it'll be a soup. It'll be great. Here you go, Shawneen.
Thank you, Brenna, and thank you, President Parker and the Board of Education for having me here this evening. Yes, I'm here to give you some follow up to what Jeff presented on just the financial aspect of the update. Thank you. So this slide is a representation of our sources of capital projects for funding for our capital projects. The large purple circle represents our 2 building fund sources of revenue, which is really as a result of the 2018 ballot initiative that our community approved for bond issuance to the district to fund capital projects. The total amount in those, the building fund 2018 and the 2020 was a total of $698.9 million. which is represented again by that purple circle. Then we have this overlap, which is between the left circle, which represents our capital reserve fund, and that purple circle. The overlap there is valued at 138 million, and that represents the contribution that through the 2018 CIP program, the contribution that the district made, commitment that they made to contribute 138 million towards that program. That 138 million is funded primarily through annual transfers that come through the general fund to the capital reserve fund and allocated interest on our bank account, primarily being allocated to this CIP program over the last few years. Additional sources of revenue or sources for funding for our capital program come through. We had a starting balance. Within the fund, we have sale and lease proceeds from properties that we will surplus in the future. We have specific finance proceeds, and we have fees in lieu for properties out there in the district, and then a portion of the annual transfers. So primarily over the last few years, all of the purple circle is what we've been using to fund our projects. And then as Jeff mentioned, we're kind of in this bridge, we're getting into this bridge place where we're going to be using multiple sources between cap reserve and the CIP program. You can go to the next. So just to clarify, building bond funds versus capital reserve fund, building bond funds only hold the bond proceeds, premium, and their separate interest earnings that are voted on by the local community. Once a community approves that bond, then it is our duty to spend down those funds as soon as possible because they are approved by the voters for a specific purchase for the district. The Capital Reserve Fund holds the non-bond funds as financial resources to fund the capital projects as well for building renovations, purchases, construction, repair, and any purchase of major equipment. This fund exists in perpetuity and is consistent with state statute. So that's the two differences between these funds. This slide is intended to show the sources that the CIP cash flow transition between using starting in 2019 when we had the 2018 bonds issued. The purple lines show the 2018 bonds being used, and then you can see as we get into 2021, we start transitioning into green lines. That's showing the amount of 2020 bond funds that we're using for the projects year over year. And then as you can see, as it gets towards the right of this graph, we're transitioning into more of the blue funded cash flow projects, and that's representing the capital reserve fund expenses within this fund and transitioning into using those funds. So you can see in FY24, the primary sources that we're using to fund capital this year is both the green bars and the blue bars. And then in the future, it's going to be primarily the blue bars, which is the capital reserve fund. So just keeping that in mind with the rest of the presentation. I think next one. This slide is looking at an income statement view of our capital reserve fund, looking at the sources and uses within our capital reserve fund. So just grounding to this slide, the first gray column labeled projected, that's this current year, and that's what we're projecting to spend. Then the next column over labeled with blue is our preliminary budget for next year. And then we have a green one for preliminary budget for FY26. Sources, again, what we talked about in the beginning, sources within this fund. A big source is the capital reserve transfer from the general fund. This year it's projected to be 24 million. Additionally, we have an assigned reserve transfer from the general fund this year designated for the Fletcher Miller project of 15 million. And then we have other sources this year of approximately 7 million, primarily related to interest in the cash accounts for the capital reserve fund. So total sources for this year is 46 million. And then looking at the uses, as we mentioned in the previous slide, it's a mix between 2018 CIP program projects and non-CIP projects. And then additionally, we have the Myers Pool project that's going on that is funded through a separate initiative, and then debt and principal interest that we have to make every year for the bonds that we issued. So this year we're looking at sources of 46 million and uses of 46 million. Next year, looking at the 24-25 budget, And this is preliminary based on and dependent on the Board of Education adoption of an annual budget. So it is completely preliminary. We are anticipating a transfer from the general fund of 29 million, and then interest, sale proceeds, fees, and grants of 15 million. So that includes interest. It also includes some potential revenue from a BEST grant that Mr. Reed referenced earlier regarding a grant to cover part of the Fletcher Miller project for a total sources next year of 44 million. And then as we've spoken about, then this will be a year where we're spending heavily both 2018 CIP expenses, uses for projects, and the non-CIP of 27 million for a total projected uses of capital funds out of the cap reserve fund of 71 million. And then finally, for the secondary part of this bridge year is looking at a transfer from the general fund of 34 million. And then really seeing down below that now we're really heavily focused on that our projects are going to be focused on non-CIP projects that are not related to the 2018 CIP program for a total use of 40 million in that year. I think you can go to the next one. So what does this mean? Looking at our capital reserve fund balance, we started the year with a balance of 117 million. Sources and uses are consistent with the prior slide, so we'll end up with the same 117 million. But then as you can see, when we go through FY25 and FY26, where the uses are higher than the sources in, we're drawing down on that fund balance and currently projecting at the end of FY26, the fund balance would be at 95 million. This is all, again, dependent on the Board of Education adoption of budget. And please keep in mind that when we see that, excuse me, that ending fund balance, that really is intended for capital use, and it's going to be held in the capital reserve fund until we allocate it towards project. Included in there is anything that is unspent from 2018, i.e. the on hold projects is part of that 95 million. And once we are, we have a commitment of how we will spend that money, then we will draw within that fund balance to spend that money. But it's not yet deployed. And I think the final part of this is really looking at and considering that strategic capital planning really is that multi-year look. And we're looking at prioritizing resources for the most critical projects of the district and making sure that we balance the financial needs and the sustainability as we plan these projects, because most of these projects are multi-year projects. We really have to consider the timing of the project and how it's going to hit our income statement from a cash perspective, knowing that we can't overcommit for future years if we don't have the funds available to complete those projects. So that is what I had from the fund finance world of capital planning and projects. And we're open for questions. I think all of us are open for questions now.
Thank you. Board members, do we have some questions? Don't be shy. Director Reed.
I'll turn on the mic this time just for fun. Am I seeing that the Myers pool is up 12 million above what we were anticipating? Am I seeing that correctly?
I'm going to jump in since I do most of the oversight of Myers Pool from a financial perspective. As of today, we are spending only exactly what we ever committed to spend. It's just a timing thing. So, we did that financing, that lease financing. I want to say it closed in 2021. And then we held the funds in escrow. And those funds being drawn down is what you're seeing in the income statement view that Shawneen presented. I believe it's listed as Myers Pool 15 million in the current year. And that just represents the fact that the bulk of that construction is underway this year, even though we had issued the lease financing a while ago. But as of today, we are only projecting spending exactly what we financed.
Great. Okay, that's good to know. And then I just have a quick question about Wheat Ridge High School. The one thing I am curious about is what are we doing with the gym floor? I didn't hear that mentioned in there, and I know that it was an issue. So I'm just kind of wondering where we are on that. And then that's all I have.
The gym floor was
Superintendent
replaced.
Derlin.
It was replaced this summer.
Oh, go ahead, Tim. You can share it. I was just so excited.
It was replaced this past summer, or actually in the fall. But it was done before basketball season started. So
Yes, and actually, my own children went to the rivalry game of the Golden and Wheat Ridge volleyball game, girls volleyball this fall, and they came home and they said, "Mom, their gym floor is so nice." So I'm really excited about the gym floor. I also got to see it going in, which was just really cool. So it's done. Thank you, Tim.
Oh, good to hear. Thank you so much.
I have some questions. On slide 5 that listed the not started, the on hold, and contingency, I understand the on hold 2 new school projects there. What are contingency projects? What are they referring to?
I'll take a shot at this one. So the contingencies. So we have 3 distinct, I would say, real placeholders for contingency funds. And when projects are closed out and we release funds, they fall into one of the 3 contingency buckets that are labeled there. So maybe calling those a project is there might be a better way to say that. But those are really the placeholders for our unallocated contingency dollars across the CIP program.
Okay. A couple other things too. How do we prioritize the projects that we identify? And I'm thinking really specifically of Wheat Ridge. The question being, is it alphabetical, and that's why they seem to be last often, or is there another way of prioritizing projects?
I can't speak to how we've prioritized projects in the past. I highly doubt it was based on an alphabetical ranking. But really, we're looking at our deficiency data. I mean, really, when I'm thinking, President Parker, thinking about our bridge year projects in particular, because when we develop our strategic capital plan, I think that's going to provide a really robust view into projects across the district that certainly aren't weighing the first letter of a school name into the equation. And really, we're starting with what we're identifying as just the most critical needs across the district, and that's really what's rising to the top for our bridge year projects. And that'll continue to be the method around, what are our most pressing needs, regardless of the name of the school. But I've heard that as well, and I guess I don't really need to say a whole lot more about that.
Okay, and in regards to
comment on that for a
go
moment?
ahead, Tim. Yeah,
I think that when we developed the program, we deliberately looked at projects that actually had received quite a bit of capital work during the previous bond. So those were pushed more towards the end of the bond so that we could get maximize the improvements that we made to those. And there were a lot of schools that didn't get the same level of improvement as others. So those were pushed forward. And one of the goals of the program was high school parity. In other words, making sure that all of the high schools had things like auxiliary gyms and things of that nature. And some of the schools actually got those as a part of the 2000 bond, Wheat Ridge being one of them. Others, like a Golden or an Arvada or Pomona, they didn't. So that's why they were pushed forward in terms of the program. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah. Thanks. And staying on Wheat Ridge, you did mention, Tim, $6 million that we had approved, appropriated. Is there, and you listed quite a few things that were going on there. Will we be asked to approve more money for Wheat Ridge?
No, that's not the plan. Actually,
Okay.
we've spent quite a bit of time working with the staff and doing focus groups and things like that to make sure that the work that's going to be done is what's been prioritized and what can afford to be done. So no, I think we feel very good about the additional money and being able to really polish up Wheat Ridge.
Okay. And also on slide 19, where we were talking about the projected column and preliminary budget for the bridge year, I noticed Fletcher Miller is in there, and we referenced the 15 million that we've already identified, but there's nothing going out from 25 to 26. We don't identify any money in there yet. And I know the bids haven't gone out, so we don't know the actual cost of it yet. We don't know what the best grant will be, but are we not, I mean, don't we have any idea of what we're going to be asking for?
So I believe the Fletcher Miller project in total is set at 38 million. It is a combination of 3 different sources of funding. So we have the source of funding, the 15 million that you see there from the general fund. We additionally have earmarked funds from the 2018 CIP program, and we have the potential best grant source of revenue. So I think that's why you don't see it. It is in there, but it's more in a 2024-25 preliminary budget, and most of the spend in that year is going to be out of either the 2018 CIP and then a portion in the non-CIP. So it's blended in those 2 lines because it's not one source.
Okay. And then one other thing on slide 14, when you talked about the strategy going forward, let's see if I'm going to go back and look at it myself. I'm not sure, Jeff, if I heard you correctly. Did you talk about a consulting contract to help us with the strategic plan?
Yep.
And what's the status of that?
Yeah, so we wrapped up our RFP period and we're evaluating the responses right now. So we haven't picked anybody, but we're in the evaluation phase of selection.
Okay, thanks. And that's it for my questions, board members. Okay, Director Kenworthy.
Thank you. I wanted to lift up just deep gratitude for the detailed description, definition, or differentiation, whatever word is appropriate there, between the CIP, building bond funds, and CRF. It's, for me, really helpful for conversations that we'll have with stakeholders in the community who might have some confusion around what is funding which projects. So thank you for that. I will return to that slide and use language in there with some folks I've had conversations with. I also wanted to just ask, because somebody asked me and I haven't seen anything about it, if there are any future facing plans for Jefferson Junior Senior High School beyond just standard maintenance. I'm just asking the question because it's been asked of me. I thought I would ask it here.
We did a number of improvements to Jefferson. Actually, they were completed about 2 years ago with the new administration area, the new front facade, the gym, and some classroom improvements. So we have invested in, as well as the artificial turf or artificial field and track. So we've made a significant investment in Jefferson as it stands right now.
And I will also add that that site is on the list it's on the lights list as well. So it'll be getting the additional update for the field lights too.
Great, thank you.
Director Applegate.
Thanks, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Gatlin, and thank you, Mr. Reed, for your time and your constant help for me on the acronyms as I try to navigate a lot of this. I just had one question. Is there any time component to having to spend the 2018 CIP funds by a certain date? And are we okay that we're not finishing the Wheat Ridge cost until 2025?
There
jump.
were some, okay. Who's going to?
Sorry, Tim, I'll start just on the obligation to spend part of the question and pass it off to you. Director Applegate, you might be thinking of some regulations regarding our bond proceeds and the amount of time to spend those down. So again, the two yellow circles kind of within the big magenta one, there is a time requirement, and the IRS, when you issue tax exempt funds, says you need to be 85% drawn by the 3-year mark and then pretty much fully drawn at the 5-year mark. And so we try and move along at a steady clip to meet that IRS requirement because these are tax exempt bonds. There's no requirement for when or how we spend money held in our capital reserve fund. And because the capital reserve fund is the identified source for the originally described 2 new builds, we are not under any IRS or other regulatory obligation to spend those funds. Tim, you want to add?
The only thing that I would add is that we try to finish the projects as quickly as we can, because generally we establish our contracts so that we want the contractor to finish up before school starts. So we urge them to move forward quickly and get done as quickly as they can. And usually they are interested in that too, because the longer it takes them, the less money they make. So it works for both of us.
Thank you.
Dr. Varda.
Thanks. Is it right then, well, to follow up on that, so Brennan, did you just say the 2 new builds have no timeline? Are you referring to the 2 new schools that are part of the CIP budget?
I was just attempting to speak to whether we had any type of regulatory obligation to spend funds in our capital reserve fund, and we do not.
So, all right. So my question is there a timeline by which we have to either decide on or spend the money for the 2 new builds?
I'm going to defer on that question to the superintendent.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Copeland. My understanding is that the answer to that question is no, because the CIP projects as an overall included portions of both debt as well as general fund transfer. And that goes back to the graphic that, Director Kenworthy was just talking about being helpful. It kind of shows like the Venn diagram of the overlap. And so the investments at the end of the CIP are funded mostly with that cap transfer because the district spent, due to regulatory requirements, the debt from the bond sales first in the earlier projects. And then those funds are pretty much either spent or planned to be spent. And now we're sort of moving into this cap reserve, which is this transition period that we're talking about. And so because the dollars for those 2 new builds really are sitting in cap reserve, which is basically the general fund transfer that has been made over the course of the bond program, plus the money that was already sitting in cap reserve before the bonds were sold, there's no regulatory reason why the district, the board, needs to make a decision about those investments at a certain time. Now, do I think we should let it sit there forever and not make a decision? No. And that's why we have prioritized the northwest part of Arvada, in our boundary study. We've also prioritized the Red Rocks Ranch area. Did I say that right? Red Rocks Ranch? Okay. We prioritized those two areas in the boundary study so that we can get some information to the board about those areas as a growing population in our district, which is an anomaly compared to other areas in our district with our declining enrollment. So we are going to have some information that we'll be able to share with the board related to those two areas that I think can help us decide what is the best timeline on this decision. And then, of course, what is the best decision? And so, Dr. Varda, I don't think there's a regulatory reason for us to have a timeline, but I do think there's an obligation to our community that we make a decision in the interest of the shifting demographics within our community, so people know what they can expect as they're buying homes and or moving into a neighborhood. So that's my answer.
I think I kind of understand that. I think I'll have to look into it again. I just find it a little confusing. So I'm not sure that I think it's just me not understanding. So real quick on the memo that we have today on consent, there's a line for contingency. Is it correct that like these schools are part of contingency? No? Okay.
No, the contingency is when a project that contingency line is going to move all the time, like week to week, month to month. Because what happens when Mr. Reed's team completes projects is they close it out. And if the project is over budget, contingency is used. If the project is under budget, contingency is built. And it goes back to this contingency line. So that's, I guess, the definition of contingency is making sure that we can control for unknown variables that might come our way in any given project or in the projects across the program. So that contingency line is really sort of an account to ensure that we can afford unforeseen circumstances, delays, whatever we might not have foreseen when we started a project. And it will grow when we perform in a way, or our contractors perform in a way that allows us to save money on a project. So that's just a contingency that allows us to run the program.
I see. On the presentation, sorry, on slides, I guess, I don't know what I'm looking at, 20 and 22. Sorry, I'm just having a hard time following tonight for some reason. I'm trying to figure out where the money that we're talking about is in like these balances. So for example, the schools again, where are they in either the capital sources and uses or the capital fund balance? Like, where do we see that balance?
So from a source perspective, and I think this is what Superintendent Dorland was saying, from a sources perspective, it's funded through Cap Reserve Fund. So on that Venn diagram, that overlap between the orange circle and the purple circle, there's like 138 million. It's part of that 138 million. When you're looking at the income statement that I showed, it's not part of the income statement because at this moment we don't have a projection of when we're going to use that source. So it is not on the income statement as a projected spend. But then when you look at the slide 20 that shows the ending fund balance of 95 million, it resides in there, and it'll reside in there until we decide what to do with those funds and the timing of when to spend those. So for that, does that help? So it's not part of the cash flow projection at this point because it hasn't been decided when those projects would start.
Okay. And so what we did is we spent the CIP money, but have a hold on our reserves for these builds. And I'm just assuming that's all a legitimate way to use the money, you know, so we've spent CIP down almost entirely, which is the intention, with the projects that haven't started, and, you know, just like they're budgeted out, and we have like a very, very little amount. So everything that would come in as a request after tonight would come out of our capital reserve fund.
That's correct.
So whatever
I might just, I think what sometimes we struggle with. Oh, I'm sorry, Danielle. I thought you were done.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So if the capital reserve fund is, if you said, I can't remember now, I've already gotten lost again. Whatever the capital reserve fund is, that amount we have to account for those 2 schools in it. What I'm trying to kind of think about is the future. And so next month, if we have a consent agenda with items on it, like where is the possibility that that can come from? And the only possibility, from what I understand, I'm just trying to understand, is the capital reserve fund. But we have to account for the projects that we've now tagged to be paid for by the capital reserve fund. So that big balance is actually a lot less, and it's not even that big of a balance, but it's a lot less unless we decide not to build those schools. So it's just a very, like, we've had a lot of consent agenda items or contract changes that are big numbers, and I feel like this is it. Like, we can't really do that anymore, because we don't have a CIP, which makes sense. It's all I think that as a board, it's a different way that we have to look at these decisions than we have had to up to this month, right? When there was like some place for that money to come from. It's just not.
Correct. We're at the tail end of the CIP program. And so, yes, going forward, as we go into these bridge years, yes, your primary source for those capital projects are going to be out of the cap reserve fund. But we do have the amount that was contemplated in the 2018 CIP program. We have that flagged to hold that amount. I would add that it's an amount. It's not necessarily project designated yet. So I don't know if the amount is the same as what it was originally intended 6 years ago. Does that make sense?
But
it is.
I really apologize for having to ask so many questions, but so you said it's all accounted for, but the money for the schools is in the capital reserve. Yep. Not really accounted for in our, what I'm understanding is a spend down presentation of the CIP. We've kind of taken it out of there and put it into the reserves.
Yes, I want to jump in here because I think there's a nomenclature of what we're calling things that's important to note. The CIP is a combination, going back to slide, hold on, I'm gonna go back on my other screen here. Going back to slide 16, you'll see that the CIP contemplated both bond funds and reserve funds. The reserve funds are general fund transfers that we make with the money that the state gives us, right, out of our general fund into cap reserve. And what we're saying tonight is the CIP is either the projects contemplated in the CIP are either spent, currently in process of being spent, or planned to be spent. And on top of that, there are projects in the CIP that the voters voted for that are also funded with this overlap of cap reserve. And the regulatory requirements require us to spend the bond funds by a certain point in time. So when we say the CIP money or investments, it's not just bond funds, it's also cap reserve. So we have made sure in the cap reserve, because the bond funds are pretty much spent or planned to be spent. And so in the cap reserve that's remaining, we still have CIP funds existing, CIP projects existing, like the 2 new builds, and those are on hold right now until we get to a point where the board is ready to make some decisions about that. And so just saying the CIP funds doesn't mean bond funds. It means bond funds and cap reserve. The CIP is really about projects that we promise to the voters. And I think what we're saying is, I know what we're saying is, between the bond funds and the transfer of general fund into the cap reserve, we have the projects that were promised to our voters in the 2018 CIP allocated. In addition to that, we have the cash flow amounts that Shanine has shared with you tonight. Does that help at all, Danielle? I appreciate your questions, so thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, just to be really clear, those 2 new schools cannot be paid for with bond funds because they don't, because we've spent that, but they can be paid for with the cap transfer.
Yeah, and I would say,
CIP.
Correct. I would say they were probably never contemplated to be paid for with bond funds because they were at the end of the program. So it's not just, there are projects, and Tim, you have more history than I do here, Tim, so chime in if I'm misrepresenting anything, please. But there are several projects that were contemplated at the end of the bond that were likely going to be invested in with cap reserve funds, not bond funds, because we knew we had a timeline on which to spend the bond funds.
Got it.
No, you're absolutely
Tim, can you
right.
just confirm that I'm accurate?
Yes, you are. If you ever come over to Building 4, I'll show you the whole bond program. We have it up in our conference room, and it shows the 2 new schools at the back end of the bond. It's because we knew there was no definitive date. They were going to be enrollment driven, so there was no definitive date on when we would start that work. So we pushed those all the way to the end of the bond, and then naturally we knew that we would be well past bond funds, and we would be working with capital reserve monies.
Okay, so that's helpful. My other question was just about Fletcher Miller, the spend, we should be done with the expenditure of that by the end of 2025. I didn't realize it was so quick, so I'm just also wondering if that's correct.
Well, usually it takes several months to close a project out, so I'm sure the actual closeout won't occur until calendar 26 easily.
So we're not paying for it longer than the project is getting built. Because it was a loan, I wasn't sure if there was just like an extended time that.
You mean that's assuming if we get the best grant, you mean?
No, I was talking about Myers Pool. Did I say
talking about Myers?
Sorry, I'm not even sure if that's what I said now. Yeah, I was just making sure. It just like we don't have a spend for 25-26, so we're done paying for it at the end of the project, which is, let's say, end of 25, but it might get extended because projects take longer than expected.
If we're talking about Miller, yeah, we hope to open Miller for the start of the 25-26 school year.
No, I'm talking about Myers Pool.
Myers is supposed to open in September. The pool will.
So my question is, we're done paying what we owe as a district. We don't have to have other funds.
Can I jump in just?
This. Yeah.
Please do.
So Dr. Varda, you're absolutely right. We did effectively borrow money to pay for the pool. So what you're seeing go out on the uses line is paying for the pool. And that payment is actually coming from escrowed loan proceeds. Now, we as a district actually pay back that loan over time. That was about a 20-year loan. So we will have principal and interest payments for the next 19-ish years annually that ultimately pay for the pool. On a sources and uses, you see both financing money coming in and financing money going out, but that's not quite the same thing as an expense. I know it's really confusing, but you're absolutely right. We will be paying for the pool for the next 19 years by servicing that loan, but the loan proceeds themselves are what are paying the contractor.
Okay. And I actually want to jump in here as well, because like any project, the there are lots of ins and outs and things that you have to decide along the way. And so the board should know that we are regularly in contact with the city on this project. Tim, I think we have a project manager who's assigned to partner with the city. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And so like any project, it could come in under budget and it could come in over budget. If it comes in over budget, we will be coming back to the board to talk about what that needs to look like and what your interest might be in supporting the city with any overages. And so I feel like, Dr. Varda, one of your questions is like, are we done with the pool? And I think that's a really fair question. And I just don't want the board to walk away tonight feeling like we're done with the pool. Because it is an ongoing project, and like any project, whether it's a new school build or an addition or even, you know, new carpet, you don't know what you find underneath things, and you don't know what's going to come up as a project continues to be wrapped up. And so the city and our project manager and our construction team continue to collaborate about that. And this project may be over budget, and if it is, we're going to have to talk about what that means in terms of what we end up contributing additional, what the city ends up contributing additional, and what kind of usage rights we get for that pool for our student athletes and our community. So I just want to make sure that that's clear, because I feel like one of your questions was like, when are we done with this project and when are we done with the spend? And I can't give a clear answer about that tonight because the project's not yet complete, and we'll continue to update the board on where that sits probably in the coming months, given that it is getting close to done.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. If there aren't any more questions on this, two things. One is I do want to have a break for about 10 minutes before we go to the next item on the agenda. And I want to thank very much the presenters here, very thorough presentation. And I just want to put this out going forward to be something to think about. Superintendent Dorland, how would the board go about deciding we're not going to go forward with either of those two schools that we have just sort of sitting there? So after maybe the boundary studies and other things are done, just to start thinking about what does a motion look like for the board to say, take it off our planning. So with that, I am going to say, let's take a 10-minute break. And we'll see. Okay, and we are back with the next topic on our agenda. We will hear about the district's benefit plan renewals, and we'll vote on required contract approvals for 2024-25. The presentation we will receive will include recommendations of the Benefits Advisory Committee. And presenting guests we have here tonight are Jen Jones, the Chief Human Resources Officer, and Adam Barnett, the Executive Director of Total Rewards. So, Ms. Jones, if you'd like to get started.
All right. Good evening, President Parker, Board Directors. Adam and I are excited to be with you on this really snowy evening. Thanks for having us. Like you said in your announcement, we're going to be talking about benefit contract approvals, the process for doing that, why we're doing that, and then also talk a little bit about the RFP that will start on this spring for our medical, dental, vision insurance rates. So putting out an RFP for that. So I'd like to turn it over to Adam Barnett. Adam is our Executive Director of Total Rewards, and he'll walk you through the presentation. And we can go ahead and skip slide 2, Adam, and you can head right into slide 3.
All right. Well, thank you, Jen. I appreciate the introduction. As Jen stated, we're here to get a vote on our 3 contracts that require as they're over the threshold of $100,000. So Jeffco offers 10 benefit programs, and 3 of those programs require your approval each year for renewal. The 3 that require renewal: Kaiser Medical, Aetna Medical, and then the Standard, which does our disability insurance, short-term disability and long-term disability, as well as voluntary life and our group life plan. And just as a note, in 2025, the district and employees, we estimate $77 million in medical premiums, and so that's a big reason why we're presenting tonight, is because there's such a big, it's such a big bucket of money. So just to summarize the ask, there are 3 contracts that we need, or 3 renewals that we need your approval on. The first one is the Kaiser plan, where we've received 7% increases in total premiums for Kaiser. For Aetna, it's a 6.6 increase in premiums, and for Standard, for our life, AD&D, and disability programs, we actually received a decrease of 5%. Starting with Kaiser, that increase will be estimated at $3.4 million of additional spend needed for that Kaiser program. For Aetna, it's $1.3 million. The reason why decrease in premiums for Standard was because of the RFP. If favorable results from the RFP last year, or this, we have a spend of 8.9 increase to 4.66 with the benefit. So I'm really happy about the outcome of the Standard RFP. The Benefits Advisory Committee members from the 3 unions, JCA, CEA, and as our consultants that help facilitate the benefit advisory meetings. The committee recommends benefit plans as well as plan design, so they are on the recommendation tonight. District and the associations negotiate district contribution, talking about their contribution towards the